How can the same guy who did this with a straight face also end up doing something like this? Well, when you're a pink-haired high schooler with more powers than Superman, anything is possible. That's right, today we're recapping Saiki K. As one of the funniest things to ever be created, Saiki K follows the life of Saiki Kusuo, a high schooler who hates having powers and is cast of weird but lovable friends. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. The very first episode of Saiki opens with a dog running in front of a truck, only for the truck to just jump over the dog like a horse. But this isn't a random occurrence. This is the doing of our main character, Saiki Kusuo. You see, Saiki was born to Kuniharu and Kurumi, a completely normal couple who were cliché lovebirds. However, 14 days after being born, Saiki's powers began showing. He was communicating with his parents using telepathy. Pretty soon, Saiki was able to walk in the air, teleport, use X-ray vision, read people's minds, predict the future, and a lot of other powers we'll get to know sooner than later. Now, most anime would have the parents sending Saiki to a mental facility or a government program, but Kuniharu and Kurumi just accepted their superpowered kid the way he is. And 16 years later, Saiki is walking back home from school. However, as Saiki tells us, life for a psychic isn't as peachy as we might think. Sure, he always knows what's gonna happen, and he can change the outcome according to his will, but knowing what's gonna happen and being able to change it has removed all the joy of being surprised or accomplishing anything in life. Damn, I never thought of it that way. Anyway, Saiki makes it home to find his dad locked outside. Saiki uses his powers to open the door and lets his dad in, and we realize that his parents have gone from lovebirds to sworn enemies. Why do marriages always work like that? Kurumi now hates Kuniharu so much that she serves him dinner inside of a shoe. God damn! He tries to get Saiki to change it into a steak, but Saiki doesn't want his dad to become too dependent on him and refuses. Saiki says he's gonna let his parents figure out their relationship themselves, until they interrupt him when he's having his favorite dessert, coffee jelly. That's when Saiki connects his parents' minds, and they both realize that they still love each other, instantly fixing their fight. But in their happiness, Kurumi snatches Saiki's coffee jelly, which makes him break all of the windows in the house. Sheesh. We then cut to Saiki at his school, PK Academy. You see, Saiki used to use his powers to dominate his classmates at rock, paper, scissors when he was a kid, but since he was unbeatable, it brought a lot of unwanted tension on him. So he makes sure to never use his powers in front of anyone. This isn't a problem 99.99% of the time, because he can sense anyone within 200 meters of him using his telepathy. But there's one person he can never sense: Riki Nendo. And that's all because Nendo's a freaking idiot. As Saiki puts it, it's like Nendo never thinks, like at all. That's when a kid named Takahashi passes out, so Saiki and Nendo take him to the nurse's office.
Guess I'll have to do mouth-to-mouth on you myself.
Please don't.
But when Nendo uses mouth-to-mouth to try and revive him, Jesus Christ, Takahashi admits that he was just faking. That's when the PE teacher, Matsuzaki, shows up and is about to give all three of them hell for faking an illness. So, Saiki uses his powers to make it look like Takahashi has an insane fever and he gets rushed to the hospital. Saiki then burns the thermometer, but Nendo sees him do it, and Nendo thinks Saiki is sick too and sends him to the hospital as well. He really is an idiot, but he's a nice guy. We're then introduced to Shun Kaido, Saiki's classmate who thinks a secret organization named Dark Reunion is plotting to take over the world. Kaido believes he has the power to stop this organization. Standard teenage shenanigans. As you can imagine, Kaido's classmates mercilessly make fun of him, which makes the poor dude run to the bathroom and start crying.
The snake's on your crotch!
But when a snake appears in Saiki's class, Kaido says he'll take care of it. The snake jumps at a girl, and Kaido jumps in front of her to protect her. So Saiki fries the snake with electricity, which makes everyone think that Kaido does have powers. This includes Kaido himself, who starts acting like an asshole. Jeez, who knew being a psychic was such a drag? Oh, well, I guess Saiki did. Anyway, we're then introduced to Kokomi Teruhashi, a girl who's really beautiful, and she knows it. But she's not just beautiful, she's super nice too, or at least that's what she thinks. In reality, she has a massive ego and thinks that she's doing a favor to someone just by talking to them. She sees Saiki in the street and decides to bless him with her presence, but Saiki just ignores her. Okay, Chad. Teruhashi starts following Saiki around, trying her best to get his attention, but Saiki ignores her the entire time. That's when Saiki sees Nendo and teleports out of there. Meanwhile, Teruhashi asks Nendo if she's seen Saiki, and he says that he hasn't. So, Teruhashi comes to the conclusion that she was hallucinating Saiki because she's in love with him. Yeah, being a psychic is hard, but being a psychic around idiots? That's just miserable. Episode 2 opens with Saiki's class playing dodgeball. Now, Saiki hates PE, but not because he sucks at it, it's because he's too good. So when the PE teacher, Matsuzaki, says they'll be playing dodgeball, Saiki is ready to phone it in and just lose to avoid unwanted attention. Unfortunately for Saiki, he's on the same team as his class rep, Kineshi Hiro. Hiro is basically a parody of a shonen protagonist. That means he's overly dramatic and enthusiastic about everything, even a dodgeball game. Saiki isn't having it, and tries his best to be eliminated from the game, only for Hiro to play hero and save him. Now, Saiki is the only one left in his team with 7 players on the opposing side, and everyone expects him to somehow come through and win. One problem with that, if Saiki actually threw the dodgeball at full speed, he'd kill someone. Well, this sucks. Saiki uses his mind-reading powers to gauge his popularity among people right now, and it's 41 out of 100. Since he hates being the center of attention, he plans to do just enough to get it to 50. Unfortunately, during this process, Saiki accidentally throws the ball too hard, bringing his popularity up. And when Hiro plays hero again, Saiki has no choice but to play along as Hiro wins them the match. Saiki's popularity is now at 82, which he plans to bring down bit by bit, until Nendo hugs him, which makes it fall all the way down to 46.
Likability. It can free fall in the blink of an eye.
Hey, Nendo isn't that bad, is he? Saiki's next dilemma is a girl named Chiyo Yumehara, who is seriously crushing on him. Chiyo develops a series of elaborate plans to get closer to Saiki and make him fall for her. But since Saiki can read her mind, he avoids every single one of these plans flawlessly. Hell, he even makes it stop raining so he doesn't have to share his umbrella with her. But as soon as Chiyo accepts she and Saiki aren't meant to be, she falls for another guy, which kinda pisses Saiki off. Later, Saiki's parents want to move some furniture around the home. They were sleeping in different rooms because of their fight, but now want to move into the same room again. But they're too lazy to do it themselves, so they get Saiki to do it with his powers. One small problem with that, his parents are really indecisive, so they keep making Saiki move beds in and out, move the sofa around, bring a TV, and even break down a wall. In the end, Saiki fixes the wall, but it comes at a cost of reverting all of the furniture back to its original location. Looks like Kurumi and Kuniharu won't be making siblings for Saiki anytime soon.
Let me ask you. Think I can pass the dress code check looking like this?
Meanwhile, Saiki is going to school when he explains why no one thinks his pink hair is weird, and that's because he's used the power of suggestion to make everyone, and I mean everyone, think that colored hair is normal. What's more is his powers have increased humankind's ability to think as well as their healing abilities. And it's not just mind control. Saiki's power of suggestion has changed humans at a genetic level to be smarter, heal quicker, and have colored hair. This guy is basically a god trapped inside a high schooler's body, which is kind of terrifying when you think about it. The next episode starts with Saiki walking by a park when he sees a magician named Urioko Chuno about to perform a trick. Unfortunately, his trick bombs, and he ends up super embarrassed. He then tells Saiki how he threw away job opportunities and his marriage to become a magician, which Saiki thinks was a terrible idea, and I agree. That's when Saiki has an idea. He'll do a magic trick to show Urioku how bad he is, which will make him quit magic. So Saiki pulls Urioku's assistant out of his bag, and Urioku is shocked. But instead of quitting magic, he asks Saiki to be his mentor. I saw that one coming from a mile away. Maybe I'm psychic too? Later that night, Saiki sees Urioku on TV, and he's about to perform the most ridiculously dangerous stunt I've ever seen. He's gonna be trapped in a box that's gonna be pierced with swords swords dropped from a crane, lit on fire, and then crushed by a road roller. Somewhere not far from here, Dio's nodding in approval. Seeing this, Saiki teleports inside the box, only to find out that it was all a ruse. Urioku was never inside to begin with. Since Saiki has to wait 3 minutes to teleport again, he uses the rest of his powers to survive and escape the stunt, only to get a spoiler for his favorite TV show by reading an actor's mind. Well, that just sucks. Later, at school, Kaido tells Saiki he's about to find out something massive, and that he'll tell Saiki about it later. Oh boy. He then goes to a room where a guy is sitting in a hood. Turns out, this guy is the leader of a secret organization that's trying to fight back against Dark Reunion. The guy tells Kaido that he used to be one of Dark Reunion's A-rank soldiers in his past life, but has been reborn as Shun Kaido. What a load of In reality, this a-hole is just tricking Kaido into doing his homework and stealing his money. Kaido leaves, thinking he's actually fighting Dark Reunion, while the guy laughs his head off. But Saiki was watching the whole thing, and he drops down to punish this asshole. What's more, he makes it look like Dark Reunion actually attacked the room. This makes Kaido happy. He thinks they really exist. Saiki really is a sweetie pie, isn't he? The next day, Nendo accidentally finds Saiki's house on his way to the beach. Kurumi is super happy. It's the first time one of Saiki's friends has come to their house. She forces Saiki to go to the beach, and Kaido and Hiro just happen to be there as well. Great. Nendo tries talking to some girls, but every single one of them rejects him, saying he's super ugly. Ouch. That's when a girl starts drowning, so Nendo and Kaido jump into the water to save her. One problem with that, Kaido can't swim. What an idiot. So Nendo is now saving the girl and Kaido. Hiro hops in to help Nendo, but ends up getting a leg cramp. This guy is so annoying.
Can't take both! Can you bring one back?
Yeah, that's my job. Just leg cramping!
So Nendo is now saving the girl and Kaido and Hiro. This is all too much for him, and he's about to drown until Saiki helps him from underwater, making him look like a hero that Hiro is super impressed with. Some time passes, and a new term starts at school. Inside, Kaido tells Saiki Nendo is acting weird, and Saiki agrees, so they start following him and see him buying flowers and a cake. And Kaido comes to the conclusion that Nendo is attracted to little girls. Where the hell did he get that from? Of course, that turns out to be a bunch of nonsense. Nendo was getting the flowers and cakes to honor his dad. It was his death anniversary. You're a piece of shit, Kaido. You happy now? Saiki then sees something shocking. The ghost of Nendo's dad is sitting on his grave. Saiki tries to ignore that, but he has bigger problems to worry about, because the episode ends with him getting an anonymous letter. Someone knows he's a psychic. Wait, what? The next episode starts with Saiki reading the letter he was sent. Turns out the sender is a psychic too. That's why he knows Saiki has powers. He wants to be Saiki's student and learn how to use his powers properly. Not trusting him, Saiki uses psychometry, a power that lets him see the emotions of people stored inside objects. But before he can do that, the psychic just shows up at his house. His name is Reita Toritsuka, and he's a spirit medium. He can see and talk to ghosts. He then tells Saiki the truth. He wants to use his powers to make a lot of money and look at girls naked. What a scumbag. Saiki refuses and throws him out when he accidentally uses psychometry on Toritsuka. Saiki realizes that, just like him, Toritsuka lives a pretty hard life because of his powers. Okay, fine. Some sympathy for the scumbag, I guess. The next day, Saiki shows up at school, only to realize that Toritsuka has transferred there and is in the class next door. What's more, he's using his spirit powers to tell every girl who their guardian spirit is, and he's getting a lot of attention. So, Saiki pulls Toritsuka aside and tells him to change schools. He does not want the extra attention. But Toritsuka continues his shenanigans, telling everyone their guardian spirits, everyone except Nendo, who he ignores. Nendo, being the idiot he is, keeps nagging Toritsuka to tell him his guardian spirit, and Toritsuka ends up punching him, and then is surprised his punch hit him. That's because Nendo looks exactly like his dad, so he thought he was a ghost. Toritsuka can't tell the difference between a human and a ghost without touching them. Okay, now I actually feel bad for the scumbag. The following day at school, Saiki gets cornered by Hiro, who asks for help preparing the arch for sports day. But when they get to class, the arch is completely destroyed. They start working on it together, and Hairo realizes they need more wood, so Saiki does enough work to not look suspicious and starts reading a book. But when Hairo takes too long to come back, Saiki checks up on him and realizes that the lumber shop was closed. The madman is carrying a log to school.
Where the hell did he get that?
He eventually makes it there, and with the help of Saiki and the rest of his classmates, completes the arch for sports day, which turns out to be a month away. Hairo seriously needs to relax. Later that week, Saiki's parents head off to a wedding, so he decides to clean the house in their absence, until he sees a cockroach, and teleports all the way to Texas. What? You see, though Saiki can read the minds of both people and animals, bugs are too small. He can't register their thoughts, and since he can't predict them, Saiki is terrified of them. He's just like me for real. Saiki then goes back home to receive a package, only to find Nendo at the door. This time, he teleports to Russia. Dealing with two things he can't predict is too much. Understandable, but still rude. That's when Saiki gets an idea. He'll have Nendo kill the cockroach for him. The idea works, and Saiki's parents come back to a sparkling clean house. But when Kurumi accidentally drops some chocolates, Saiki teleports away to the Republic of Palau. The chocolates looked a lot like bugs. Scaredy cat. Meanwhile, Saiki notices Chiyo staring at him again, which is weird. She's supposed to be dating a guy named Takeru. Turns out, Takeru is a bit of an asshole, for a lot of reasons. Realizing that a breakup would mean Chiyo going after him again, Saiki spends the entire day following the couple, and doing everything he can to bring Takeru's popularity with Chiyo up. He does enough to get it to 95 out of 100. There's no way they'll break up now. Unfortunately, Takeru pulls the wombo combo. He's rude to the waiter, unleashes his stinky feet, holds his chopsticks like a psycho, and chews loudly. His popularity instantly goes from 95 to 0, and Chiyo breaks up with him on the spot. So, no power on earth can save assholes from an eventual breakup? Good to know. The next episode starts with Saiki being in a dilemma. He wants to get home and watch the finale of his favorite anime, Real, but there's a problem. Kaido, Hairo, Teruhashi, and Nendo are all looking for him. He needs to avoid them, change his shoes, and get back home, all before 5 p.m. So, Saiki goes invisible and expertly maneuvers around his friends. He's about to get out scot-free until Toritsuka puts his hand on Saiki's shoulder and loudly announces it, giving away his location.
I'll walk with you, pal.
Turns out it's not just ghosts. Toritsuka can see everything invisible. God damn this dude. Sometime later, sports day arrives, and Hairo is hyped. He wants their class to win. Saiki, forced to attend by his parents, deliberately finishes 3rd in his race. Average as usual. Kaido, meanwhile, finishes 5th, and their class needs a boost. Teruhashi motivates a guy called Sawakita to help win the 3-legged race, and now their class is in the lead. Next up is Nendo with a scavenger hunt, so he runs to the piece of paper and reads the clue, saying he knows exactly what to do. So he heads over to Saiki and pulls one of his hairpins out, which makes Saiki pass out. What the hell just happened? Just then, chaos ensues all over the planet. It looks like the world is gonna end. That is, until Nendo puts the hairpin back in and Saiki wakes up. Turns out, the hairpins in Saiki's head are regulation devices that keep his power in check. Saiki's powers are always increasing, and if he doesn't keep them in check, they could end the entire world. He decides he should head home, and his classmates agree? They say Saiki should take care of himself. They'll win the tournament for him. This makes Saiki kinda emotional. He can't go home now. So, he takes part in tug of war and helps his classmates demolish their opponents. Toritsuka, who's in a different class, starts teasing Saiki, saying his class is gonna beat Saiki's. While Saiki doesn't care, Hairo says every guy in his class will get a buzz cut if they lose to Toritsuka's class, which gets Saiki motivated. He helps his class get 2nd place in the beanbag throwing competition by cheating, only for another class to cheat more efficiently and beat them out. Next up is the relay race, and Saiki shows his full speed, determined to not get a buzz cut, only to fall down at the finish line. Turns out he hasn't fully recovered from having his powers unleashed. He ends up losing the race, so he, Kaido, Hairo, and Nendo all get buzz cuts and go to school.
My name is Kusuo Saiki, and I have psychic
Looking good,
superpowers.
buddy.
Shut up, Hiro.
only to realize they ended up beating Toritsuka's class and got buzz cuts for nothing. At least Saiki looks kinda cute, right? Sometime later, Saiki's class is conducting a fire drill, and he quietly plays along as he does with everything. Unfortunately for Saiki, his class is full of idiots. They completely misunderstand the situation they're in and end up damaging school property. As a result, they all have to get buzz cuts as a punishment. Not again. The next episode starts with Saiki spending his entire pocket money for the month on a single premium coffee jelly. This guy is insane. Suddenly, the coffee jelly is hit by a baseball, and Saiki sends that flying away. Turns out, the baseball belonged to a kid that was playing catch with Nendo, and it was a gift from his late grandpa. So, Saiki uses his powers to get the ball back, but has to sacrifice his coffee jelly to do that. But it all works out, because the next day, that kid drops by and gives Saiki 3 of those premium jellies, baby! Good karma is a thing! The next day at school, everyone is talking about a new fortune-telling house that just opened. Saiki thinks it's a bunch of horseradish, but when he sees Kaido going inside, he follows just to make sure. Turns out, Kaido has a problem making friends, and the lady inside uses it to scam him, selling him a necklace that'll help him make friends. Saiki scares the lady into giving Kaido his money back, but the idiot still thinks the necklace helped him make friends.
What about the necklace?
Keep it. I bought it at a street fair for 500 yen.
What?
He's so stupid he doesn't even realize that Saiki is his friend. Later that day, Saiki gets stuck with Kaido and Nendo, who are heading out to eat some ramen. Teruhashi sees them and decides this is the perfect opportunity to get close to Saiki. Saiki wants nothing to do with her, but when the place Nendo takes them turns out to be a dump, Saiki is sure Teruhashi will leave. But she powers through, and even eats the disgusting ramen, all to get close to Saiki. I didn't know Mad Riz was one of his psychic powers. We then cut to Toritsuka, who's actually doing something nice for once. A girl's gym clothes have gone missing, and he's using his ghosts as leads to help find them. He eventually tracks down the guy who stole the clothes, but ends up getting blamed for stealing them himself and gets smacked in the face for it. Bad karma is a thing too. Later, Saiki has a dream about losing his powers, and he's happy until he wakes up. What's more, he realizes an explosion is gonna happen near his house, so he stops it by picking up a rock. He explains how big accidents are caused by little things, and this rock was gonna cause a gas station to explode. He throws the rock away when he gets another vision of an explosion, this time in his school. Sure enough, the rock he threw made its way to Nendo, who triggered a series of events that almost blew up the school, but Saiki stops it at the last second. No, this isn't a butterfly effect, this is a rock and roll effect. Episode 7 starts with Saiki seeing a cat stuck between 2 walls. It needs help to escape, but Saiki isn't a pet person. Besides, since he can read minds, he knows cats are pompous assholes who think they rule over humans. So he telepathically tells the cat he'll help it, but only if it asks for help. The cat doesn't want to ask for help, but when Saiki threatens to leave, it buckles and ends up asking. Saiki helps it out and leaves the cat without even petting it. This infuriates the cat, so it woos Kuniharu and plans to be the household pet, taking Saiki's place. But Kurumi is allergic to cats, so they throw it out. Wow, maybe dogs are actually better. We then cut to Saiki walking home on Christmas Eve. As with everything popular, Saiki hates Christmas too, and he hates it even more when he gets home and sees Nendo there. However, when Nendo tells Saiki's parents about his dad dying before he was born, they get super emotional about it. So, Kuniharu dresses up as Santa to surprise Nendo, and he falls for it, actually thinking it's Santa. Saiki plays along and conjures up a deer, which makes Nendo even more happy. Plus, it turns out that Nendo's mom always gives him a gift on Christmas, and that warms everybody's hearts. Including mine. Shortly after Christmas, it's New Year's Day, and everyone is gathered at the temple to make wishes. Saiki has a wish too, a quiet New Year's Eve. That wish goes out the window when Kaido shows up. Saiki's parents are shocked that Saiki has another friend, and that excitement goes through the roof when Hiro shows up singing Saiki's praises. Saiki reads the minds of his friends as they make their wishes. Kaido wishes for friends, which he gets in Saiki, Nendo, and Hiro. Hiro wishes for a rival, which he gets in Nendo. That just leaves Saiki's wish unanswered. If God does exist, he sure hates Saiki. Kuniharu decides to show Nendo how to make a wish, and wishes for for Saiki to have a girlfriend. That's when Teruhashi shows up out of nowhere. Things just keep getting worse. Now, surrounded by Saiki's friends, Kurumi invites them to their home and absolutely ruins his peace. But that's when Kurumi pulls the biggest blunder of all. She mentions that Saiki has psychic powers. Oh no. Saiki manages to divert attention away from it by spilling a glass of water, but it might have been too late. As his friends leave his place, Saiki knows he has to fix his mom's mistake, so he removes the phrase psychic powers from their memories. As a result, each one of their brains replaces the phrase with something that fits their personality. Kaido thinks Saiki couldn't make friends because he was a weirdo. Teruhashi thinks it's because of his trust issues. Hiro thinks it's some shonen anime nonsense. And Nendo? Well, who the hell knows what Nendo is thinking?
I don't know what his replacement memory is, and frankly, I don't want to know.
Still, Saiki's secret is safe, and that's good enough for him. The following episode starts with Mr. Matsuzaki confiscating everything non-school related from the students. Toys, video game consoles, and a donor kebab stand? What the hell is wrong with these kids? Saiki thinks Matsuzaki's a great guy, but the students hate him. So, 3 guys get together and decide to prank him by leaving a note supposedly written by a student that's fallen in love with him. Saiki follows these assholes as they follow Matsuzaki. He shows up to the place mentioned in the letter and stands there all day. The guys spend all day laughing at him, so Saiki transforms into a girl and shows up, absolutely stunning the brats. Matsuzaki says he can't reciprocate a student's love and rejects Saiki. He then returns the toy to the kid, apologizing for breaking it. Okay, Matsuzaki is actually goated. We then cut to Valentine's Day, and stop me if you've heard this before, Saiki doesn't give a shit. Everyone else does though. Hiro gets a bunch of gifts from a lot of girls he's helped out, while Nendo and Kaido get none. Kaido does end up getting chocolates from one girl, but poor Nendo is alone. Nendo needs to be treated right, damn it! Meanwhile, Teruhashi is in trouble. Someone leaked that she's brought chocolate to school, and every single guy is chasing after her, trying to be the lucky one. She bought it for Saiki, but knows she can't give it to him, so she tosses the chocolates out of a window, only for them to fall in Saiki's hand. Is this the meaning of true love? Suddenly it's Sunday, and Saiki is doing everything he can to avoid Nendo. But as soon as Nendo leaves, the ghost of Nendo's dad shows up and starts annoying Saiki.
Hey, can you hear me? Hey, how about now? How about now? Can you hear me now?
God knows why he's visible to him. Saiki teleports to a remote island, but Nendo's dad follows him. So Saiki unleashes what I can only call a spirit bomb on him. Turns out that also does nothing. Humans can't hurt ghosts. Saiki goes to Toritsuka for help, who refuses to hurt his guardian spirit. Yeah, you heard me right. Nendo's dad is Toritsuka's guardian spirit. Anyway, after being rejected by Toritsuka, Saiki removes his own soul from his body and punches Nendo's dad far away somewhere. He really hates being annoyed, doesn't he? Following that, we realize Kurumi has a big problem. She keeps getting scammed by salesmen. Fujiwater, books on levitation, a fully automated egg cracker. No matter how absurd the thing being sold is, Kurumi just buys it. So Saiki and Kuniharu decide she needs to put a stop to it. But the following day, poor Kurumi gets roped in by the salesman again. So, Saiki uses forced telepathy to show Kurumi the salesman's true intentions, which makes her go crazy and she starts chasing him. Back home, Saiki sees a ring on the floor and picks it up, only for something weird to happen. His telepathy is gone. Saiki realizes that the thing is made of germanium, and when he wears it or touches it, his telepathy shuts off. Ever since he was a kid, he has been able to hear the thoughts of everyone in a 200-meter radius. But now, for the first time in his life, he can sit in peace and quiet. So Saiki uses this to go somewhere he never could before, the cinema. Usually, going to the cinema results in the movie getting spoiled for him, but now he can't hear anyone's thoughts. So he goes to the movie and ends up sitting right next to Teruhashi. Great. What's more, Teruhashi is here with the star of the movie Saiki is about to watch, Toru Mugami, which makes the entire cinema crowd around him. This poor guy can't even catch a break, telepathy or not. The next episode sees Toru showing up at Saiki's house to have a chat with Saiki. Turns out, Toru is Teruhashi's brother, and he's obsessed with his sister. He tells Saiki to stay the hell away from Teruhashi, not knowing she's the one who keeps chasing him. Saiki gets annoyed by his antics, so he telepathically makes Teruhashi come to his house. Realizing her brother's stunt makes her look super desperate, Teruhashi tells Toru she hates him. which crushes his spirit. Serves him right. What a weirdo. After that, final exams are upon PK Academy. Saiki uses his telepathy to cheat, but not so he can get good marks. It's so he can be average. While the rest of his friends do okay, the teacher tells Nendo that if he fails 3 or more subjects, he'll get held behind a class. Saiki thinks about helping, but it turns out he doesn't have to. The ghost of Nendo's dad is already helping his son. Nendo ends up scoring higher than Saiki, which is something that doesn't sit right with our pink-haired protagonist. Speaking of things Saiki doesn't like, he runs into Orioku again, who asks Saiki to be his assistant for his next magic show. Saiki accepts when Orioku says his ex-wife is gonna show up, and he uses his teleportation to fix a botched trick. That's when Nendo walks in and Orioku says his ex-wife is here. Wait, what? Turns out, his ex-wife is Nendo's mom, Midori. They met after Nendo's dad passed, but she dumped him when he got fired from his old job. He asks Midori to give him a chance after seeing the second half of his show, and she agrees. But when the show starts, Nendo wants to be the assistant instead of Saiki. Without Saiki, Orioku knows the trick is gonna fail, so he just gives up. The crowd riots, and his show is a failure. Orioku is down in the dumps until Midori returns his old bank book to him, saying she never spent a single yen. So Orioku says he'll make her proud by buying a new trick box, which makes Midori punch him. And I thought my relationships were complicated. The next day, everyone at school wants to go to karaoke after school, but one girl says she can't. Her name is Mera Chisato, and the reason she can't go is because the poor girl is broke. Saiki knows this already, but Mera acts shocked when he shows up at the cafe she works at.
Just hold on. Hey, where's the coffee jelly?
No idea.
You see, working isn't allowed for students, so Mera is keeping this and all of the rest of her jobs a secret. Saiki agrees not to tell anyone, and that's when Mr. Matsuzaki shows up. He's about to expel Mera, so Saiki takes out one of his hairpins and makes it so that everyone in the world knows it's okay for PK Academy students to work a job. Damn! Episode 10 starts with a physical fitness test, which is a nightmare for Saiki, but this time he manages to stay low-key the entire time. The real story here is Hiro, who wants to compete with his rival Nendo. Unfortunately for him, not only does Nendo beat him at everything, but he does it while having 2 balls in his shirt that look like what's wrong with this guy? The last competition is flexibility, and Hiro manages to beat Nendo, only to lose to Kaido. Being a shonen guy is hard, huh? Meanwhile, the cat that Saiki saved has been showing up outside his house every day, determined to get revenge on Saiki, but he loses all sight of that when he sees a female cat. He's in love. So, Saiki transforms into a cat to help him mate with her so he can get off Saiki's back. What? The plan is simple. Saiki will harass her, the cat will come save her, and then she'll fall in love with him. But when Saiki takes a bathroom break, the exact opposite happens. The cat ends up harassing her, and Saiki saves her, which makes the female cat fall in love with him. So now, there are 2 cats outside of his house every day. Great. Now, one of the downsides of being a psychic is all the popular stuff is spoiled for you. So, the only kind of video games Saiki can play are the ones that no one likes. So, he buys a bad game and brings it home, ready to play. And this game is hell. It has an unskippable cutscene to start.
I'm Tom. Glad to have you.
And once you get used to him, these graphics aren't so bad.
And restarts him from the beginning every time he dies. Saiki spends all day clearing the first level and breaks his controller in the process. So he restores the controller, which resets the game too, sending him back to the start. Yeah, Saiki would hate Hades for sure. After school, Kaido, Saiki, and Nendo run into Kaido's mom, who invites them over for tea. But it turns out Kaido's mom is super strict about studies, and when she realizes that Saiki and Nendo aren't prepping for college already, she makes them sit down and solve some textbooks. She then tells Kaido to stop seeing them, but Kaido says they're his friends and he wants to see them. Aww. So, Saiki finishes all of the textbooks instantly, impressing Kaido's mom and saving their friendship. Saiki's such a cutie patootie. The next day at school, Toritsuka wants Saiki's help to ask out a classmate of his, Yoriko Itano. Saiki says he's not helping, so Toritsuka goes to plan B. He lets the spirit of a serial womanizer possess him, and he makes his move on Yoriko. It's working at first until she slaps the womanizer out of him, literally. But Toritsuka, like every pervert, has a plan C. He gets possessed by the spirit of a super sweet guy. It works like a charm. Yoriko is really falling for him, until he slips on a banana and lands in a very unseemly position with her. I do not feel bad for him. The next episode starts with Saiki helping a kid get his balloon back. Unfortunately, Saiki used his powers, so the kid now thinks Saiki is a superhero. He follows Saiki around everywhere. Saiki saves his life in between, and he even gets Saiki's autograph. After a whole day together, Saiki gives in and takes the kid flying, before dropping him off next to his mom, disappearing. But, to Saiki's horror, the kid and his mom move in next door to him. I agree with this kid though, Saiki is a superhero. The following morning, Kuniharu is late for work. Shocker. So, he bribes Saiki into teleporting him to work. Saiki does it, and Kuniharu says Saiki should come and see his workplace. Ugh. Kuniharu works as an editor for a lesser-known manga publishing company. Saiki, like everything that has to do with his dad, is skeptical at first. But when he gets to see behind the scenes of how manga are put together, he really appreciates this new side of his dad.
Have you thought about making the main guy a psychic?
What?
Wholesome stuff. With summer break finally here, Saiki is looking forward to relaxing, until the kid from next door shows up. His name is Yuta, and he's obsessed with this superhero called Cider Man that's clearly an ad for a cider drink. What's more, he thinks Saiki is Cider Man. With that, Yuta pops in a Cider Man CD and starts going crazy over the show. When it ends, Nendo shows up out of nowhere, and Yuta is terrified of him. Turns out, Nendo looks exactly like Cider Man's worst enemy, Baron Cola. So, Yuta runs back to his home, and Saiki sends Nendo flying outside too. Give the man some peace and quiet. Jeez. Later that summer, Saiki goes to a festival where he avoids all of his friends. That's when he realizes that something's happened. He's been pickpocketed, and not just him. A lot of people have had their wallets stolen, including his friends. So Saiki uses his psychic powers to toss a motorcycle on the thief, before cornering him and wearing a mask to scare the out of him. He then grabs his friends' wallets and returns them to everyone except Takahashi, because Saiki doesn't really like him. The poor guy's literally tweaking over losing his entire savings. That's why you don't keep too much cash on you, kids. Meanwhile, Teruhashi and Chiyo are both thinking about Saiki when they run into each other outside of a cafe. They decide to grab a drink together, even though they don't know each other that well. The topic of romance comes up, as it often does among teenagers, and they're both hesitant to say they like Saiki. Speaking of Saiki, he's in the booth next to them with Kaido and Nendo trying his best to hide. That's when Nendo blows his cover and both girls realize that the other likes Saiki. Saiki knows he needs to finish this problem now, so he uses his psychic powers to turn Chiyo's face red when Kaido talks to her, and Teruhashi's face red when Nendo talks to her. That way, Chiyo thinks Teruhashi likes Nendo, and Teruhashi thinks Chiyo likes Kaido, saving Saiki's. The next episode sees Haido planning groups for the class trip to Okinawa, something Saiki is not looking forward to, of course. Each group consists of 3 girls and 3 guys. Saiki is with his boys, while Chiyo and Teruhashi are doing everything they can to go with Saiki's group. And of course, they don't know they like the same guy, yet. The only problem is every guy wants Teruhashi in their group, so Haido makes them all draw lots for it. Teruhashi is about to end up with Saiki's group because God hates Saiki and loves Teruhashi, but Saiki uses his power to switch it up. However, when a bunch of girls say they don't want to go with Nendo, Teruhashi and Chiyo take their place. It looks like Saiki's trip is ruined after all, until Chiyo and Teruhashi's third girl, Mera, says she can't go on the trip. So instead of 6 groups of 6, the class is gonna go in 7 groups of 5. That means everyone in Saiki's group is gonna join a different group altogether. Phew, that was close. The night before the trip, Saiki gets a visit from Toru, who's mad that Saiki is going on a trip with his sister. Toru says he bought a ticket too, but he's gonna make sure nothing happens between them. So, Saiki steals the ticket and gives it to Mera, who couldn't afford it herself. Aww. But the next day, a typhoon delays their flight, so the trip is gonna be cancelled. The entire class is down in the dumps, and even Haido can't cheer them up. So, Saiki gets rid of the typhoon. He may not show it with words, but Saiki really does care about his friends. The plane takes off and Saiki and his friends are on their way, but the plane ride is anything but smooth. First, Saiki has to teleport to Kaido's room and get his motion sickness medicine.
Just seeing Teruhashi's smile made me feel better.
Hey, you okay, Run?
Then, he has to revert Takahashi's body to a day ago to fix his stomach pain, and that's when he gets a dream that the plane is gonna crash. So, he takes off a hairpin and carries the plane the rest of the way. Superman ain't got on Saiki. With that, they finally made it to Okinawa. In Okinawa, Kaido tries to copy the dialect of the region, which is impressive at first until it becomes annoying. The girls head off to look at souvenirs, while Saiki and his buddies go to see a viper fight a mongoose. Unfortunately, the fight is pre-recorded, since they have laws against that kind of thing these days. After the fight is over, the shopkeeper convinces Kaido to buy all his cider-related products, and the poor bastard falls for it. Gotta hand it to them, the salesman and Saiki are really good at their jobs. Later that night, Takahashi and his buddies are ready to take a peep at the girls' bathing pool, but Saiki uses his powers to put an end to that nonsense. Thank God. Meanwhile, Chiyo and Teruhashi get ready to play Uno with Saiki, but Saiki doesn't want to, so he goes to the beach and falls asleep on a chair. Teruhashi finds him and sees this as a perfect opportunity to take out one of his hairpins. When Saiki wakes up, he sees Toritsuka screaming. The hotel they were staying at is gone. Oh boy. The next episode opens with Toritsuka freaking out about the hotel being gone. He thinks everyone is dead. In reality, Saiki accidentally teleported the hotel into the middle of the sea, and he brings it back before anyone notices. Phew! Still, he has a problem. Teruhashi is still missing. He uses clairvoyance and sees that she's about to be attacked by a bear. So, he teleports to her and knocks the bear out. He's ready to tell Teruhashi the truth until he realizes she thinks this is a dream. So, Saiki uses his powers to disguise Toritsuka as Teruhashi to distract everyone. This will buy Saiki time to get back to the real Teruhashi. Talk about quick problem solving. But Saiki isn't out of the woods yet. Teruhashi thinks this is a lucid dream. So, Saiki has to make everything she says come true, or she'll know she's awake. So, when she says she wants to be in a castle, he teleports her to one. But when she says she wants Saiki to blush and kneel for him, Saiki ain't doing all that. So, he teleports Toritsuka in and makes Teruhashi think he's Saiki as he kneels and blushes. After that, Teruhashi passes out and the danger has passed. The next day, Saiki wakes up in his own home. He teleported back for a good night's sleep. Now, back in Okinawa, everyone gets ready to go to the beach. This includes Chiyo, who's been dieting and working out for a month to make sure she impresses Saiki in her swimsuit. Ah, the stupidity of youth. After visiting a pineapple farm and an aquarium, it's finally time for the students to go to the beach. As expected, everyone is waiting for Teruhashi to show up in a swimsuit and they're blown away by how stunning she looks. Chiyo, unfortunately, gets no reaction from the guys. Even Mera after her gets some looks. Chiyo's confidence is destroyed. While Kaido tries to make up an excuse for not knowing how to swim, some guys show up and start harassing Teruhashi. Saiki is gonna step in, but Kaido does before him. Uh-oh. Kaido tells the guys to leave Teruhashi alone, but they're not budging.
Who the hell are you?
I'm just saying she doesn't want to go, so leave her alone.
Chiyo steps in too, so the guys insult her. This makes Kaido mad as hell and he punches the guy. One problem with that, his punch doesn't have any power. Luckily, Saiki makes it so his punch actually hurts, and the guys run off. Then, he changes Chiyo's view to make Kaido look more handsome, and just like that, Chiyo is into Kaido. The next day is their last, and Saiki wants to try a special coffee dessert, but for that, he needs to ditch Kaido and Nendo. He really could have just taken them with him. He's so dramatic sometimes. While Teruhashi teases Chiyo for liking Kaido and they grow closer, Saiki ditches his pals to go try this special dessert. After helping Takahashi with a stomach problem, Saiki runs into Teruhashi's psycho brother. I can't believe he actually came to Okinawa after them. Luckily, Saiki deals with him too and makes it to the shop, only to find his entire group already there. What's more, they all ordered the dessert he wanted and it's sold out now. But that's when they all ask for an extra dish and give him parts of their dessert, meaning he now has the most dessert out of anyone. Saiki just smiles. Having friends isn't so bad after all. Aww. The next episode starts with Saiki's school getting a transfer student. His name is Eren Kuboyasu, and he seems like a pretty boring dude. But Saiki reads his mind and finds out that's far from the truth. Turns out, Kuboyasu used to be a delinquent who even had his own motorcycle gang, but he got tired of that life, so he decided to cut his hair and transfer schools. Now, he just wants to work hard and live an honest life. Saiki doesn't think he can do that, so he follows Kuboyasu around to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid. To Saiki's surprise, despite all of the pent-up rage inside him, Kuboyasu manages to suppress all of it and doesn't cause any troubles. He does beat up a bully, but Saiki's cool with that. A week later, Kuboyasu realizes he has a problem. He's having a hard time making friends. He tries his luck with Saiki, and you can imagine how well that goes. He ends up getting along with Kaido though, which is surprising. Next, he meets Toritsuka, who he hates. And then he runs into Teruhashi, who he instantly has a crush on. He then meets Haido and thinks he's pretty cool. He wants to be friends with him. But as he goes back to class, he sees all of them gathered around Saiki and is shocked. How does the pink-haired twink have so many friends? If only he knew. After school, Saiki and Kaido join Nendo as he visits his father's grave, while his father's ghost stands next to Saiki. See, the thing is that ghosts don't remember any details about their past lives, so when Nendo's mom shows up too, his dad has no idea he's looking at his wife and kid. Saiki and Kaido head over to Nendo's home, where Saiki looks for clues on how to make Nendo's dad pass over onto the next realm. That's when Nendo's dad says he's fallen in love with Nendo's mom. Ironic. And he needs to tell her. It'll help him pass on. So, Saiki switches Nendo's soul out of his body for his dad's. Nendo's dad, now in Nendo's body, confesses to Nendo's mom and suddenly disappears. He's moved on to the next life. Or so Saiki thinks. In reality, the old geezer's still around. Damn it! After that whole debacle, Saiki is enjoying his coffee jelly in the same cafe Mera works at, but they have a problem. Apparently, a Starbucks has opened next door, and it's seriously decreased the number of customers they're getting. The cafe owner is getting desperate, so Mera says they should just come up with ways to get more customers. They brainstorm for a bit, and obviously drag Saiki into it. But after running through a couple of ideas, the owner says he's not going to change anything. As he puts it, he needs to maintain the atmosphere for the few customers he has. Saiki appreciates that, so even though it's nothing crazy, he helps them out a little bit by getting some customers in. He really loves that cafe. Meanwhile, there's a new detective show on TV. Saiki doesn't care for it, but Kaido has been so hooked that he's decided to adopt the personality of the main character. Relatable. Kaido shows up to school dressed like a detective, and wouldn't you know it, there's been a crime! Someone broke the principal's glass door and stole the vase from his office, and Kaido is determined to crack the case. After some surprisingly good detective work, he concludes that Takahashi is the culprit. After all, his hands are cut up from breaking the glass and he's carrying the vase with him. But, to absolutely nobody's surprise, that's not what happened at all. In reality, Takahashi broke the vase yesterday, so Mr. Matsuzaki had him take it home and repair it. That's how Takahashi cut his hands. And who broke the glass? Saiki did, when he used his powers to get his umbrella back from school. Thus comes the end of Kaido Lock Holmes, and he had a terrible run. Seriously.
The culprit is me. I sincerely apologize.
Episode 15 begins with Saiki's class trying to figure out what they want to do for the PK Academy Festival. The brainstorming starts with showing off cool rocks they found in the school, and from there they cover a lot of ground. Cross-dressing maid cafes, barbecue planetariums, and Haido even says they should make 50,000 paper cranes. Because of course he does. Saiki gets fed up with all the yapping, so he makes a small meteor land inside the class. And so it's settled. They'll be doing a meteor and cool rock display, which is pretty fire if you ask me. Some days later, Toritsuka comes to Saiki for help. He's part of a band that's gonna play at the festival, but there's one problem. Everyone in the band absolutely sucks. Toritsuka wants Saiki to help them get better with his powers. Saiki wants no part of it, but Toritsuka reminds him of how he helped with the Teruhashi incident in Okinawa. Saiki owes him. So, Saiki turns each member into a master of the instrument they want to play, before giving Toritsuka the voice of an angel. Or at least that's what they think happened. Saiki actually just tricked their brains into thinking they sounded good. He didn't teach them What's more, Toritsuka and his band decide they're good enough and don't even practice. The next time they play is gonna be at the festival. We can all guess how that's gonna go. Just like that, the day of the festival arrives. After they set up their rock exhibit, Saiki, Kaido, and Nendo head out to check out the other attractions. They go through a haunted house that terrifies Kaido, and then they run into Saiki's parents as well as Nendo's mom, which terrifies me. Saiki goes to the bathroom to wash his face, but Nendo swipes Saiki's glasses. Turns out that was a huge mistake. You see, the reason Saiki wears those glasses is that any living being Saiki looks at directly turns to stone, and that's exactly what happened to Nendo. Little pink-haired Medusa over here. While Saiki tries to figure out what to do next, his dad shows up and realizes what happened. Saiki takes his dad's glasses to block the stone-turning effect, and then thinks about what to do next. That's when Kuniharu breaks the statue,
Kusuo, take care of your mom for me.
and Saiki has to put it back together. But before they can figure out the next step, Nendo's mom bursts in, and seeing Nendo, thinks Saiki made a statue that looks just like him. To cover his Saiki places the statue in the class display and ends up winning them the festival. Unfortunately, kids keep treating it like a statue and not like a person. Saiki has to dive under Nendo to save him from being destroyed again. He does care about Nendo as much as he pretends not to. Saiki then fixes Nendo up on screen, sadly, and now the three musketeers are on their way to the class's party for the winning festival. Kaido is giving them directions on the phone, but Kaido and Nendo suck at following directions, and since Saiki doesn't want to go at all, he doesn't help them fix their path. While Saiki just chills, the other two keep talking to Kaido on the phone and keep messing up. They end up getting so lost that they're about to be captured by some thugs, at which point Saiki teleports them to the restaurant. Kaido and Nendo are happy to finally be there, only to see that the party is over. Damn, Saiki really can be heartless sometimes. The next episode opens with Toru trying to talk to Teruhashi, but she's mad at him.
Step outside, I gotta change.
Oh, I see.
That's the problem.
So, the hypocrite goes to ask Saiki for help. Apparently, Toru is having a photo shoot in their neighborhood tomorrow, and he doesn't want the showbiz people to see Teruhashi. They'll make her an actress. So, he asks Saiki to keep Teruhashi away from that place. Saiki agrees to help, since Teruhashi being an actress would bring tons of unwanted attention to him too. Unfortunately, the only way Saiki can do this is by going on a date with Teruhashi, and so he unwillingly heads on. But the plan goes south when Toru's director changes locations at the last minute, and the new location just happens to be exactly where Teruhashi and Saiki are. Oh boy. What's more, Toru pulls up to the exact same cafe Saiki and Teruhashi are at. Saiki uses his powers to flip the sign on the door, making it look like the cafe is closed. So, Toru leaves to film at the train station, which means Saiki can't go home. The date must continue. Saiki uses this as an opportunity to take Teruhashi to play some games, and absolutely demolishes her in every single one. Teruhashi is starting to get sick of Saiki, and that's exactly what he wants. But when they run into Toru, Saiki knows that they have to make a run for it. So, he grabs Teruhashi's hand and helps her hide from Toru. One problem with that. Now, Teruhashi is even more smitten. Poor Saiki can't catch a break, can he? Time flies by, and it's suddenly Christmas again. Kuniharu is dressed up as Santa again, but this time, he's delivering presents to all the kids in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, he injures his back, and since Saiki already healed him earlier that day, he can't do it again. Kurumi volunteers to do it, but she looks a little too good in her Santa outfit, so Saiki does it instead. He goes from house to house delivering gifts to kids, and even drops down the chimney of one kid because she asked for that specifically. But when he gets to the last kid's house, his parents are fighting because his dad has to work on Christmas Eve. Yeesh. The poor kid just wishes for Santa to fix this so they can have a normal Christmas party. And though it's totally outside his JD, Saiki goes ahead and does it. If Santa Claus was real, he wouldn't have on Saiki. With Christmas gone, Saiki collects the gift money from his parents and heads over to the electronics store. He wants to buy a new TV. The salesman there sees Saiki and starts trying to sell him all kinds of expensive TVs. But Saiki sees right through his games and ends up striking a crazy bargain for the exact TV he wants. What a sensible guy. Unfortunately, That sensibility goes right out the window when Saiki sees a coffee jelly making machine, his weakness. The salesman instantly starts using his sale pitch, and Saiki is completely sold immediately. But since he only has money for one of the two things, he ends up buying the jelly maker. Well, at least he's happy with it. After that, the new year is upon them, but the students of Saiki's class are still up to the same shenanigans. Kaido still thinks Dark Reunion is out for him. Nendo is still an idiot, and Toritsuka is still a pervert. I really want to smack Toritsuka in the face for real. Meanwhile, Haido is determined to beat Nendo at everything. Chiyo is worried about her weight, and Teruhashi is worried about Saiki not replying to her New Year's letter. She even put a heart on it. She really can't figure out why Saiki won't respond. Turns out, Saiki has written a response, but he wants to make sure that it'll make Teruhashi hate him before he ends it over. Imagine rejecting the hottest girl in school. Saiki really is something else. The following episode starts off with Kaido running into Kuboyasu, who's being bullied by some delinquents who want his money. Kaido tries to help, but before he can, Kuboyasu beats the out of the bullies and heads on over. After that, Kaido starts putting the dots together. Kuboyasu transferred mysteriously. He has insane fighting prowess, and he's always up to something odd. He used to be a delinquent. Looks like Shunlock Holmes isn't out of business just yet. After realizing that, Kaido is extra careful around Kuboyasu. He kinda scares him now.
Do you think that something's up with Kobayasu?
Huh? What about me?
But no matter how much other people annoy him at school, Kuboyasu remains calm and chooses peace. He really has given up the delinquent life. Unfortunately, Saiki and Kaido get a taste of that life the next day when they get cornered by some delinquents who want their money. Kaido has a fantasy about beating the bullies up, but when he snaps back to reality, he just gives them his wallet. Saiki is about to do the same, but Kaido pushes him out of the way and tells Saiki to make a run for it. They both try and escape, but Kaido gets caught. Saiki's gonna escape until he realizes he can't abandon his friend. So, he plans to reveal his powers to Kaido until Kuboyasu shows up. Kaido tells Kuboyasu to run too, but Kuboyasu isn't a runner. So, Kuboyasu takes out the delinquents, and just like that, their new friendship is cemented. What a wholesome moment. Some days later, the three musketeers head out to a ramen place. But when it's closed, Kaido and Nendo get into an argument. They decide to settle their differences by going to the arcade. Inside, after they play a few other games, they ask Saiki to pick the game they'll compete in. So, Saiki picks air hockey. Now, Nendo is an absolute athletic freak, and he gets a 2-0 lead on Kaido. That's when Kaido starts pulling out his dirty tactics and evens the score. The game comes down to match point, and Kaido actually manages to beat Nendo. But instead of being salty, Nendo gracefully accepts defeat, and they end their trip with a group picture. I love them. The next day, Kaido, Saiki, and Eren walk into a convenience store and see Nendo working there. Turns out he saved the manager's life a week ago, so he gave Nendo a part-time job. Unfortunately, Nendo is a blubbering idiot who sucks at his job.
Well, looks like 500 yen worth of stuff. What? You're guessing at it? Use the register!
And the manager has no choice but to fire him. But Nendo isn't worried. He has another job at a ramen place too. Unfortunately, while the jobs may be different, Nendo is the same idiot, so he ends up getting fired from there too. That's when his friends ask him why he's getting these jobs in the first place. And Nendo tells him he wants to get his mom, who supports him all by herself, a present for her birthday. Kaido and Kuboyasu tear up and decide they'll all get jobs at a local restaurant. Hell, even Saiki helps by making people think Nendo is super good looking. But it's not just Nendo this time. All three of them suck at being waiters and get fired immediately. You have to be really stupid if even superpowers can't help you. Some time passes and the school marathon is here. The guys all line up, and Saiki has the same goal as always, being middle of the pack and avoid attention. The real story here is Haido, who wants to beat Nendo at the marathon. So the race starts, and Kaido falls way behind, while Nendo and Haido lead the pack. Saiki just chills in the middle, but soon realizes he has a problem. Everyone who tried keeping up with Haido and Nendo is exhausted now, and at this rate, Saiki is gonna finish much higher than he wanted to. So he fixes up all the tired runners, re-establishing himself in the middle. Back with Haido, he's pushing his hardest to win. But Nendo is just too much of a monster, so Hiro, Mr. Goody Two-Shoes himself, resorts to cheating. He distracts Nendo right at the finish line and manages to finish first, winning the race. Saiki finishes in the middle and is just glad the girls are racing on a different day. The next episode sees Teruhashi pulling up to Saiki's home to get cooking lessons from Kurumi. This, of course, is just a ruse to see Saiki, but her plan goes down the drain when she sees that Yuta is at Saiki's place. You see, Teruhashi hates children because her beauty has no effect on them. And so, Yuta just treats her like an average person, and she hates it. Teruhashi does everything she can to get in Yuta's good graces, but it just doesn't work. The kid is immune to her bull. When Kurumi has to leave the house for 30 minutes, Teruhashi sees it as a perfect opportunity to spend some time alone with Saiki, who's watching TV with Yuta, using him as Teruhashi repellent. Jeez. Teruhashi gives up and decides to go home. That's when Yuta sees a character in his favorite show and thinks it's Teruhashi. With that, he instantly becomes a huge fan of hers. God must be in love with this woman. The next day, Saiki is in a bit of a pickle. He forgot his wallet at home and he has to pay at a restaurant. He can't teleport out and he doesn't want to ask for help. So, he decides to use his power, apport. Basically, he can swap the places of objects if they are around the same value. He plans to start by trading his socks for something and keeps going higher until he has enough money to pay the restaurant. Unfortunately, by doing this, he causes others a lot of trouble. He gets his dad in trouble at work, gets Kaido in trouble at cram school, steals Toritsuka's naughty magazine, and makes Nendo eat a belt. In the end though, he does enough to pay the restaurant and walks out. What an insane power. The next day, Kuniharu builds a toy robot from scratch, which is suddenly destroyed. But it wasn't Saiki. The annoying cat did it. Not this guy again. He's back at Saiki's place, hoping to make Saiki like him again. But Saiki just tosses him out. He couldn't care less about the cat. That's when the cat chokes on a piece of plastic, and Saiki has no choice but to shrink himself down and remove the plastic piece, saving the cat's life. Unfortunately, Saiki can't go back to his original size for another hour, so he starts patrolling the house. He finds a coin under the fridge when he starts being chased by a cockroach. Saiki uses his dad's toy to gain distance, but he's about to be hunted down until the cat kills the cockroach. And with that, Saiki is now a cat lover. What? Wait. That's all it took? Really? Saiki, come on! The following day, Saiki runs into Kongu, a delinquent third year who's on the verge of having to repeat the year, and it's not hard to see why. He's a total asshole. He tries to bully Saiki for money, but is stopped by Mr. Matsuzaki, who tells him to get his together. Now, Saiki doesn't care if Kongu graduates or not, but knows Matsuzaki has poured a lot of effort into him, so he follows Kongu around, keeping him out of trouble. He makes Kongu get a buzz cut, which makes him look way more presentable. The next day, Kongu tries bullying Saiki again, but Saiki just shows Kongu everything Matsuzaki has been doing for him. After seeing all that, Kongu fixes his act and decides to be a proper student, until Matsuzaki tells him he'll have to repeat the grade. Yikes.
Here? Kongo!
After school, Saiki's entire class is going to sing karaoke, but Saiki's just there for dessert. He hates karaoke. Teruhashi is up first, and she has a beautiful voice. But Saiki doesn't give a rat's cold. While Saiki waits for his dessert, Nendo's turn is up, and he asks Saiki to sing with him. So, Saiki makes the power go out for a second, and uses that distraction to hide in the bathroom. When he comes out, it looks like everyone got hit by the zombie apocalypse. Turns out, Nendo did his song by himself, and it was so bad that people nearly died. Yeesh! Saiki's dessert is here, and he's about to dig in, until Haido tells Saiki it's his turn to sing. So, Saiki calls Nendo to sing with him, which makes everyone run away, leaving him to have his dessert in peace. Well played, my dude. Well played. The next episode sees Saiki and his parents traveling to the countryside to meet his grandparents, as in Kurumi's parents. P.S. They still don't know about Saiki's powers. When they get there, Kurumi's mom Kumi greets them with a massive smile on her face, happy they could come. But you know who's not happy? Kumagaro, Kurumi's dad, who's a total hard-ass. Or at least that's what everyone thinks. Since Saiki can read his mind, he knows the truth. His grandpa absolutely adores Kurumi and Saiki and wants them to visit more often, but he'll never show this affectionate side. He's what the Japanese call a tsundere, someone who struggles to reveal their emotions. In that sense, Kumagoro is kinda like Saiki. Oh, and even though he's pretending to be strict with Saiki and Kurumi, he legitimately hates Kuniharu. Of course. Kumagoro listens to their conversation from the next room and is super happy when he hears Kurumi brought him something, even though he hates the thing itself. Grandpa has some issues. He then hears that Saiki is going to bring him some food, so he gets ready to talk to his grandson, only for Kuniharu to walk in. Kumagoro tells him to get lost, so Saiki brings it instead. They sit down and eat in complete silence, just two tsunderes enjoying some cake. The next day, Kumagoro manipulates the family into going to the local amusement park before pretending like he doesn't want to go. When they get to the amusement park, Kurumi is all nostalgic, but Saiki and Kuniharu can see the place is falling apart and they want to go home.
What the? Should we go home?
Unfortunately, Kurumi really wants to go on the roller coaster, so Saiki and Kuniharu join her. But on the roller coaster, Kuniharu's safety belt stops working, so Saiki has to hold him in place for the rest of the ride. This leads Kuniharu to become traumatized, and Kurumi has to go take care of him now. Since Kumi is scared of heights, that leaves Saiki and Kumagoro to ride the decrepit Ferris wheel. Inside, Kumagoro thinks of something to discuss with Saiki, but all he can come up with is insults for Kuniharu. Saiki doesn't appreciate anyone trashing his dad besides him, so he starts making their cart move around violently. But that's when Kumagoro jumps on Saiki, saying he'll protect his grandson. Saiki stops moving the cart. His grandpa really does care about him. Unfortunately, the old geezer is traumatized too now, so he's out of commission. The next day, Saiki and his parents are supposed to go back home. Kumagoro doesn't want them to leave, so he tries to sabotage the return trip by saying he's out of gas. Saiki foils that plan, but that's not all, because a little while later, they realize landsliding has blocked the road, so Saiki decides it's time to reveal the truth. He shows off his powers to his grandparents. They're shocked, of course, but they accept it pretty easily. After they leave, Kumagoro mentions something, or rather, someone, a guy named Kusuke, who he says is Saiki's older brother? Huh? I swear, this dude was giving only child vibes. Now back home, Saiki is wearing the telepathy blocking ring at school. Why? Because this cool video game is out and he really wants to play it without getting spoilers. After school ends, his life is portrayed as a video game, where all his friends and loved ones are enemies he has to deal with in order to get home as soon as possible. I'd like to point out that he deals with everyone smartly except Toritsuka, who he just punches in the stomach. Anyway, he ends up getting chased by a giant version of his grandpa, and that's when the game gets paused. Turns out, Saiki was at home playing the game all along. What a weird game that is. Episode 20 kicks off with Toritsuka being popular with the girls? How? Well, turns out Toritsuka has been letting a bunch of spirits take over his body lately, and a lot of girls have been impressed by his antics. It's going so well for him that he has a group of 13 girls following him to the movies. Saiki follows him too, undercover as a girl, and that's when trouble finds Toritsuka. You see, he lets the ghosts inhabit his body for so long that they don't want to give it back to him. It's no longer his own body. Toritsuka begs Saiki for help, who obviously helps him get his body back. But by then, all the ladies have lost interest in Toritsuka. Serves him right. But Toritsuka isn't done annoying Saiki. He comes up to him the next day at school and says he wants to start his own club. Of course, the purpose of this club is to get girls. For this, he wants Saiki's help to open an occult club, where they research the supernatural. Toritsuka's logic is simple. Apparently, people often confuse fear with love. It's called the misattribution of arousal, or MOA for short, and Toritsuka wants to use it to get some chicks. Sicko. He and Saiki started the club.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And the first person to show up is a girl named Arisu Makino, a weird girl obsessed with everything supernatural. Yeah, she gives me the creeps. Kaido shows up next, followed by Chiyo. Saiki uses this as an opportunity to try and get Kaido to like Chiyo back through MOA, and he scares everyone. But while it doesn't make Kaido like Chiyo anymore, it does make Toritsuka fall in love with Arisu. Talk about a match made in hell. Ew. The next day, Saiki and his class have their home ec class, and they're supposed to be cooking crepes. Now, Saiki loves sweet crepes, and he's determined to make some good ones. Unfortunately, he's paired with Hiro and Kaido, who both suck at cooking. Surprise, surprise. They can't crack eggs, don't know how to follow the ingredients list, and even blow up a microwave. And they do all of that just making the batter. Saiki ends up making a pretty good batter by himself, and they take turns cooking. Kaido fails first, flipping his crepe onto Mr. Matsuzaki's face. Yeesh. Weird way to serve. Hiro fails second, burning his crepe to the 7th circle of hell. And when it's Saiki's turn, they realize Mera ate all of their batter. That's one hungry girl. But lately, Saiki knows he's being followed around. But it's not by some evil organization who wants his powers, it's Teruhashi's fan club. Apparently, there are thousands of members in the club, including kids from other schools, teachers, and even some high-ranking politicians. I'm not even gonna begin to touch on how that is. Anyway, after Teruhashi talks to him at school, the Teruhashi fan club kidnaps Saiki, and he lets it happen. When his eyes open, he's in a dark room surrounded by what I can only assume are a bunch of Reddit moderators. The leader of the Teruhashi fan club is, surprise surprise, Toru. This guy is a bigger creep than Toritsuka. They discuss what to do with Saiki, and most of them want him dead. What? Overreaction much? But Toru decides that since Saiki is a big part of Teruhashi's happiness, they'll let him live. But Saiki is pissed. He wanted to use this as an excuse to get rid of Teruhashi. I guess he's still stuck with her. The next day, Saiki can't escape the number 100. No matter what he does, both his friends and everyone around them can't stop mentioning the number 100. He finds 100 yen. They see 100 cars. There are 100 people in front of the mall, 100 flowers. An old man is 100 years old. Toru shows up and threatens to give him 100 lashes of torture. You know, standard Saiki stuff, but with the number 100 shoved everywhere. Saiki wonders what's going on when a ghostly figure appears and reveals the truth. It's the 100th episode of the anime. FYI, each Saiki episode is broken up into 5 mini episodes. But that's when Saiki points out that mini episodes don't count, and this is only the 20th episode of the anime. And just like that, everything goes back to normal. The next episode starts with disaster striking. A stray baseball hits and breaks Saiki's hairpin. He tries restoring it, but his powers are out of control, and he ends up restoring it to 7 years ago before it was assembled. What's more, his telepathy has increased, so he can hear people all around the world now. Saiki then runs into Nendo, and he knows it's bad news. So, he distracts Nendo and teleports back home, begging his dad to fix his hairpin. But his dad can't do it. In fact, the only person who can is his older brother Kusuke. So they call Kusuke, who's watching everything on a hidden camera and says he's on it. Creepy. But since Kusuke can't come to them, the family has to travel to London. Saiki's parents get caught up in sightseeing, which really annoys him. But that is when Kusuke shows up, wearing a jetpack. Show off? Turns out, Kusuke is an absolute genius with an IQ of 218. He started speaking when he was a month old, and he's been brilliant ever since. Seriously, what is this dodo couple eating before making their babies? Anyway, no matter how smart Kusuke was, he couldn't deal with the fact that Saiki had damn superpowers. As a result, the two brothers always hated each other. The last time Saiki saw him was 4 years ago when he went to study abroad. But Kusuke seems pretty chill and fixes his hairpin immediately, bringing Saiki back to normal. That's when Saiki realizes something is off. He can't read his brother's thoughts. Kusuke reveals that the weird device on his head isn't just for fashion, it's so Saiki can't read his thoughts. He then sends his parents off on a date before challenging Saiki to rock, paper, scissors. Saiki wins, and Kusuke says that makes their score in rock, paper, scissors 725 to 0. Yikes, that's a lot of losses. You see, Kusuke has been keeping score, combining all sorts of games and competitions. He's lost to Saiki 4,254 times! What a psycho! They then teleport to a hotel room, where Saiki learns something horrifying. Kaido and Nendo are in the room next to them. Kusuke invited them over because he has an agenda. He wants to play tag with Saiki inside the city of London, and Saiki has to take his friends so he can't use his powers. The deal is simple. Saiki has 3 hours to avoid being caught. If he wins, Kusuke will treat him to the glorious tea and sweets this cafe has to offer. So Saiki agrees. He's such a sucker for sweets. With that, Saiki grabs his friends, who are surprisingly hyped for the game of tag. But Kusuke had everything planned out. The subways are closed, and the line of the bus is way too long. So, Saiki and his buddies hop on bikes and avoid cameras.
We've got pretty far.
You're pretty out of breath.
Only for Kusuke to find them. Saiki realizes Kusuke hid a transmitter in the hairpin. That's how he's tracking them. Still, they manage to get away and hide in a store with time ticking down. Kusuke makes an announcement that makes the three musketeers look like villains, so everyone chases after them. They end up hiding in a bathroom and Kusuke follows them there. Sure of his victory, Kusuke opens the door, only to see three random dudes inside. Turns out Saiki is in the bathroom on the second floor, something Kusuke's transmitter can't see. With that, time runs out and Saiki beats Kusuke again. But Kusuke isn't giving up anytime soon. He's a goddamn masochist. I can see why Saiki hates him. The next day, Kusuke spends time with their parents while Saiki visits the art museum with Nendo and Kaido. Though Nendo and Saiki both really don't get art, Kaido is surprisingly perceptive about it, deconstructing the meaning of every art piece he sees rather impressively. That's when Nendo makes a random painting, and the director of the museum absolutely loves it. In fact, he immediately has it hung on the wall, and the visitors love it too. But when Kaido tries doing the same, his art gets rejected. I don't get art, and it looks like Kaido doesn't get it either. The next episode starts with Saiki being excited for summer break, a month where he gets to be all by himself. Unfortunately for him, all his friends want to do something with him over the break. Kaido and Kuboyasu want to get motorcycle licenses. Mera wants him to help her with her job. Haido wants him to go to his training camp. And Toritsuka wants to hold a training camp for the occult club. Saiki masterfully rejects them all, meaning there's one threat left. Teruhashi. She asks him out on a date, and Saiki wants to say no, so he telepathically brings over every guy in school, and Teruhashi is too embarrassed to ask Saiki out in front of them. Unfortunately, that leads to a domino effect of him having to say yes to everyone who wanted to do something with him, and that means that instead of a month, only one day of Saiki's summer break is free, which Teruhashi ends up booking later on. Poor Saiki. The next day, he shows up at the occult club's training camp, but Chiyo and Toritsuka have hidden agendas to make their crushes fall for them. Saiki is gonna hate this. At night, they decide to split up and investigate. Toritsuka tries pairing with Arisu, while Chiyo tries pairing with Kaido. But Saiki's psychic shenanigans sees them end up as a pair themselves. With Kaido and Arisu as a pair, Chiyo and Toritsuka are heading along and develop a crush on each other. Really? That quickly? Fortunately, those feelings disappear when a wild boar appears and Toritsuka completely abandons Chiyo. What a loser! The next day, Saiki and Nendo go to Haido's tennis training camp. Their coach, who's a total hard, is stunned by Nendo's athleticism. Though he's never played tennis before, Nendo gets put in a match with Haido, but Nendo says he'll only play if Saiki plays with him. Great! So, Saiki and Nendo begin their match with Haido. Nendo absolutely kills it, and Saiki knows that if they win, he'll have to join the tennis club. So, Saiki just hits the ball away. One problem with that, he hits it really far away, and now everyone is impressed with his power. With that, he has no choice but to complete the whole week of training. After that, he joins Nendo and Mera for her job, which turns out to be a clinical trial for a mysterious pill. Saiki takes it and it has no effect on him. But Nendo and Mera have side effects. A lot of them. Disappearing oversized right arms, overnight obesity, turning into giants, you name it. Fortunately for the idiots, Saiki is there to return them to normal each time. Still, what the hell is in those pills? As the test comes to an end, the scientist reveals that the pills were all placebos. They have absolutely no effect on you. Saiki says that it's bullshit. After all, Nendo and Mera have turned into Mr. and Mrs. Olympia today. That's when the scientist says that those two idiots ate a mysterious mushroom which caused all of this.
Over.
Shouldn't eat that mushroom, Meta. Tastes nasty.
Why did you try it?
And Saiki just sighs. Before he can recover from that, Saiki is with Kaido and Kuboyasu getting his motorcycle license. While it's smooth sailing for Saiki, the other two have problems. Kaido is too weak to pick his motorcycle off the ground, and Kuboyasu has no idea what the signs on the road mean. The instructor says that they're both hopeless, but they refuse to give up. And so, after 2 weeks of grueling training, Kaido can pick up his motorcycle and Kuboyasu can read all the signs. Saiki gets his license without breaking a sweat, and just like that, there's 1 day left in summer break. And Saiki is gonna spend that day at the amusement park with Teruhashi. Luckily for Saiki, he brought Yuta along, who really wants to see a Cider-Man show that's being held. So they go there, and the villain has to abduct someone from the crowd. He picks Teruhashi because she's beautiful, and, charmed by her looks, goes completely off script and knocks Cider-Man out cold.
Don't hurt me.
I'm sorry, miss.
With that, Saiki has no choice. The crowd puts Cider-Man's helmet on him, and he takes the bad guy out, which makes Teruhashi jump in his arms. An unwilling hero is seriously the funniest kind of hero. The next episode kicks off with a new transfer student named Mitori Saiko joining PK Academy. There's no other way to put this. Saiko is filthy, stinking, dirty, and disgustingly rich. Normally, he'd never even consider studying at what he calls a dump like PK Academy, but he has one important agenda. He wants to marry Teruhashi. He enters class and starts buying people off and proposes to Teruhashi immediately. Kobayasu really hates him, so he starts fighting with his bodyguard. Meanwhile, Teruhashi considers his proposal. He's rich as hell after all. He follows her into the girl's bathroom and asks her to say yes.
Let me rescue you from a life of poverty.
But Teruhashi says no. He insulted her friends. Besides, she already likes Saiki, and at that exact moment, Saiki walks into the bathroom. Oh boy. Saiki pretends to be asleep, and Teruhashi buys it thinking he didn't hear. Delulu much? Anyway, she rejects Saiko, who says fine, but it's not fine at all. Now salty, Saiko begins ruining the lives of Teruhashi's friends. He plans to have Kaido and Saiki's dad transfer to Siberia, and messes with Nendo and Mera too. Saiki's had enough of the bull, so he grabs Teruhashi's fan club and goes after Saiko. When the fan club takes down the guards outside, Saiki shows up wearing Cider-Man's mask and slaps Saiko around a bit. He then tells the spoiled brat that money can't buy everything, leaving Saiko buried in a pile of his own money. Richie rich? More like Richie. The next day, Saiki teleports his grandparents over to his home, and Grandpa is being a tsundere as always. They go out shopping, and Kumagoro tells Kuniharu to beat it. He wants to be alone with his daughter and grandson, but he doesn't really tell them that, so they all ditch him and go shopping. Now alone, Kumagoro runs into Nendo, and they become friends? Really? Together, Nendo helps Kumagoro pick out a gift for Saiki, and he ends up picking up some glasses. But Saiki uses body swap to make it so that Kumagoro gifts them to Kuniharu instead. And seeing how happy Kumi and Kurumi are, he can't take it back. That's actually kinda sweet when you think about it. Some time passes, and Halloween is here. Kaido invites Saiki, Nendo, Kobayasu, and Hiro to his place for a Halloween party. The only problem is, those guys don't know anything about Halloween, so Saiki shows up without a costume, while Hiro and Kobayasu show up with some really costumes. Nendo also shows up with no costume, but some girls think he's wearing a realistic costume because he's so ugly. Come on, man! Kaido is mad at the guys for not taking Halloween seriously and shuts himself inside a coffin. He's dressed as a vampire. That's when kids start pouring in, and the guys try giving them pumpkins and roasted pork instead of candy. The kids start pranking them, so Saiki scares Kaido into bringing out the candy. The kids do get their candy, and so does Saiki. This guy will do anything for sweets. The next day, we see Saiko, who hasn't left his room since Saiki embarrassed him. That's when his dad shows up and tells him to be even more of a rich scumbag. So, Saiko shows up to school with the intent of buying one of Saiki's friends. He picks Nendo and takes him out to lunch. There, he offers Nendo 1 million yen to be his lackey, but Nendo refuses. 2 million, still no. 10? A big fat no. Saiki is spying on them the whole time, by the way, and by the time they exit the restaurant, Saiko gives Nendo a briefcase full of 150 million yen to be his lackey, and Nendo empties the briefcase and uses it to save a drowning kid. Turns out Saiko was wrong. Some people just can't be bought with money. Jesus Christ, Nendo is a better man than I am. The very last episode of Season 1 starts with Saiki realizing that Orioku has become a pretty famous magician. So, when Orioku invites Saiki to his show, he goes to see how he's changed. Turns out, Orioku and his assistant have decided to incorporate comedy into their magic show. So, while they suck as magicians, they're world-class comedians now. Saiki is super proud of them, though he doesn't say it. That's when the guy who's the opening act for Orioku sees Saiki. Now, Orioku keeps calling Saiki master, and this guy is super jealous of Orioku. So, he decides to take it out on Orioku's master and attacks Saiki with a ball. So, Saiki uses his powers to stop the ball and cuts off the guy's clothes, embarrassing him. Unfortunately, this inspires Orioku to drop the comedy and focus just on the magic. No, not again. Meanwhile, Teruhashi runs into Chiyo, and there's a problem. Chiyo has eaten her way to obesity. The poor girl didn't even notice until Mera bit her arm thinking she was food. So, Chiyo started working out in the park, while Saiki reads a book. Saiki sees her struggling to work out and gobbling snacks, so he decides to help her. He puts an image of Kaido in her head, saying he doesn't like fat girls. Chiyo immediately starts training with the kind of conviction that would make David Goggins cry. She not only loses all of the weight she gained, Saiki says she now has the strongest abs of any creature on Earth, and she's still in love with Kaido. Sheesh, I wish I had that kind of motivation to work out. The next day, Saiki has to deal with all of his friends annoying him in the 10-minute break between classes. Hell, even Mr. Matsuzaki, the cat, Yuta, and Kusuke make an appearance. Talk about fan service. Anyway, after Saiki dodges all of that nonsense, he's ready to go home. When Nendo lets slip that they're doing something tomorrow, Kaido shuts him up and all of Saiki's friends leave. So Saiki spies on them and realizes they're holding a surprise birthday for him tomorrow.
His glasses will shatter.
How'd you do that?
There's two problems with that. One, he hates parties, and two, it's not even his birthday tomorrow. How the hell did Kaido mess the date up? You see, Saiki's birthday is 3 months away in August, and it's actually Saiki's dad's birthday tomorrow. Saiki wants to stop them from making that mistake until he hears about all the gifts they got him. While everything else is good, Kaido's present is a letter, and in that letter, he expresses how grateful and happy he is to be Saiki's friend. Hearing that, Saiki smiles and walks away. He'll let them do as they please. Aww. The next day, Saiki is making his friends think his dad is Saiki himself. That way, his dad gets a surprise party, and his friends think they celebrated his birthday correctly. Saiki later explains to his dad what's happening and forces Kuniharu to take his place. So, Saiki's dad keeps up the facade, while Saiki uses his powers to make sure the party goes smoothly. This includes fixing Teruhashi and Kuboyasu's gifts after they go to but Saiki's not mad. That's when Saiki's dad comes upstairs and tells Saiki to join his friends. Saiki says he's worried he can't give his friends the kind of enthusiasm and reaction they deserve, but Kuniharu says he's got it all wrong. They're throwing a birthday party for him because they like him the way he is. So Saiki bites, and he goes to enjoy the rest of his party with his friends. Saiki's gone from being a loner to being surrounded by friends who love him, and that he loves right back. What a perfect end to Season 1. The first episode of Season 2 kicks off with Saiki complaining about how popular Gintama has gotten. Fourth wall breaking is a superpower too, I guess. After that, it's business as usual for Saiki. He avoids his friends on the way to school, but they all find and corner him once he gets there. Despite being a new season, everything is basically the same. After all, it's just been a week since Saiki's birthday party. Nothing crazy has happened. Yet. Just like that, another Christmas rolls around, and Saiki is determined to have a quiet Christmas this time. To do that, he goes and sits in a park completely alone. How lovely. Meanwhile, Takahashi is working on Christmas, but messes up a cake. Nendo ends up buying that cake and runs into Kaido. They both decide to go to Saiki's house and run into Teruhashi. She's with her brother, but as soon as the crowd finds out he's a famous actor, they all start chasing him. He runs in the direction of Saiki's park, so he teleports back home, only to find Nendo, Kaido, and Teruhashi waiting for him with a cake. There goes yet another quiet Christmas for Saiki. I'm so sorry, man. But while Christmas didn't go according to plan, Saiki has the house all to himself on New Year's. So, he grabs some sweets and tea and sits down to enjoy some TV, only to see his parents on a comedy show. He changes that and sees Nendo on Who Wants to Be a Billionaire. As you can imagine, Nendo does terribly and drags poor Kaido along with him. So Saiki changes the channel again and again and again. But no matter what channel he plays, someone he knows is there. Toru's in some new show. Haido catches a baseball at a baseball game. Meta is in a freaking lobster eating competition. Saiki eventually gives up until he sees a channel playing the opening for Saiki Season 1. Now that's gotta be trippy. The next day, Toritsuka comes to Saiki for help. He wants a girl named Aiko to like him. Saiki not only rejects, but when Haido shows up, he drags Toritsuka along for tennis practice. As Saiki puts it, Toritsuka needs to be more like Haido to have a chance with girls. To Toritsuka's surprise, Aiko plays tennis too, so he plans to impress her and ends up getting hit in the face and in the balls. Ouch! Toritsuka wants to use the spirit of a pro tennis player to impress Aiko, and Saiki warns him not to, but Toritsuka does it anyway and impresses everyone there except Aiko. Turns out she was into helpless guys and already liked Toritsuka, but now, seeing him be good at tennis, she's lost all interest. In fairness to Saiki, he did warn him not to do it. After that, Saiki wants to try a restaurant that serves delicious sweets, but they only serve women. So, Saiki changes his form into a girl and gets in line. This turns out to be a huge mistake, as Chiyo, Mera, and Teruhashi show up to the restaurant. Since Saiki's dressed as a girl from PK Academy, they assume she's a student and sit with her, not knowing she's Saiki. They notice that the girl is quite similar to Saiki, and that's when Chiyo comes up with an idea. Teruhashi should use her to practice confessing to Saiki. So, Teruhashi begins, but before she can finish, Saiki gets up saying he has to use the bathroom. When he does that, he accidentally knocks his bag down, spilling his stuff. Teruhashi and the others see that the notebooks belong to Saiki, so they come to the same conclusion. This girl is Saiki's little sister. They really are idiots, aren't they? God. The next episode kicks off with Saiki coming home to see his parents in a good mood. It's their anniversary. So, despite the fact that Saiki's heard it 100 times before, they tell the story of how they met. 20 years ago, Kurumi was being harassed by some thug. So, Kuniharu saved her and they instantly fell in love. But by the time the story is done, Saiki's already in bed. That's when Kusuke calls with some bad news. One of the pieces in Saiki's hairpin was defective. Saiki wakes up the next morning, seeing the sky. He sits up and sees his room is hanging in the air. Knowing he used his powers in his sleep, he goes out to investigate, and something's off. Though this is his hometown, it's not quite the same. That's when he runs into Nendo, who acts like he doesn't know him. That's when Saiki sees her, a younger version of his mom. Saiki checks the date and realizes he's traveled back in time to the day his parents met. He realizes that the guy he met isn't Nendo, but Nendo's dad. Turns out, Nendo's dad was the one who was harassing Saiki's mom. And since Saiki stopped him before he ever tried that, his parents never met. Well, this has all gone down now, hasn't it? Saiki realizes what he needs to do. He needs to get Nendo's dad to mess with his mom again so that his dad can save him. He sets up part 1 of the plan, but his dad doesn't come out to save Kurumi. So, Saiki takes over his dad's friend and throws him at Nendo's dad. Just like that, his parents fall in love again and he's saved the future. With that, he bids Nendo's dad farewell and turns back time on his room, which sends him back to the future, and he goes outside to see a desolate wasteland. Oh no! He walks out and meets post-apocalyptic Toritsuka, who fills him in. Basically, because of the changes in the past, Saiki died 3 years ago. After that, Kusuke made a time machine which started World War III, and that's how they got here. So, Saiki goes to visit Kusuke, who explains everything. Turns out, the time machine can only go back a day in time. But that's perfect for Saiki. He uses it to go back a day in time, then uses his own powers and goes back 20 years, fixes everything, and returns to the normal present. And if that sounds confusing, welcome to time travel. I hate it just as much as you do. The next day at school, Kuboyasu has a problem. Ever since he fought with Saiko's bodyguard, delinquents have been challenging him to fight through letters, and he's been taking them out, but he doesn't want to do it. That's when he sees a letter that looks different from the others. It's a love letter. In it, a girl named Kumiko confesses to him and says to meet him at a park. Saiki sees all of this and is skeptical, so he turns invisible to spy on Kuboyasu. Turns out, the letter was a fake. It was just a group of delinquents trying to ambush Kuboyasu. Unfortunately though, they messed with the wrong guy. Kuboyasu is heartbroken, so he beats the out of them all. That's what you get for messing with a man's feelings. After that, Saiki is shopping for some new clothes when he runs into Kaido and Nendo. They're both out shopping too, and they seriously disagree with each other's fashion sense. So, against his will, Saiki becomes the judge between their fashion choices. As it turns out, they both have terrible taste. That's when Teruhashi shows up, and Nendo has an idea. He says all three of them will pick outfits for her to wear, and she can judge their fashion sense. Since Saiki is there, she agrees. She tries on Kaido's outfit first, and it looks really good. That's when Saiki takes a peek at Nendo's pick, and well, it's scandalous to say the least. So, he picks an outfit and swaps it with Nendo's before bailing. The worst part? The poor bastard didn't even get to buy clothes for himself. The next episode starts smack dab in the middle of winter, and it's snowing like crazy. What's more, when Saiki and his friends get to school, they see that the AC unit in their class is broken. It's like the damn North Pole in there. Other than Hiro doing squats to act as a human heater, Chad, there's no place in the class where they can survive. So, Nendo says they should just go home. But Kaido and Kuboyasu instantly shut that idea down. And that's because a famous comedian named Peanuts Ueda is coming to school in the 5th period, and they cannot miss that. So, they thug it out until 5th period, when someone accidentally breaks the window, making it even colder. That's when Peanuts Ueda shows up, and his kindness warms everyone up, is what they think. In reality, it's just Saiki using Peanuts as a distraction to warm up the class. The next day, Saiki and his buddies have to go to Saiko's house and hand him over an assignment. As we've seen before, Saiko's house is huge, and everyone except Saiki is really impressed. Saiko sees this and decides he's gonna show off his lavish lifestyle to the guys and impress them. Unfortunately, that's not what happens. Kuboyasu keeps downplaying everything expensive he sees. Nendo keeps goofing around. Kaido keeps searching for hidden pathways and moving statues. And Saiki, well, Saiki doesn't give a rat's about anything, as usual. They all spend the day unknowingly humiliating Saiko before they head home. More money, more problems, I guess. But Saiko doesn't give up that easily. A few days later, he invites the guys over to his house again, and this time, he's prepared. He's done extensive research on everyone's hobbies, and he's turned his home into an amusement park cum laude bachelor pad that would even make the manliest man cry of happiness. Saiki and the others plan to not act impressed at all, but the moment they step inside, that goes out the window. Kuboyasu immediately becomes captivated by an extensive motorcycle collection. Kaido gets to see his fantasy of statues that move when you look away from them, and Saiki gets to go into a room made entirely of sweets. They end up spending the entire day there, and Saiko thinks they'll all bow to him now, but they don't. Instead, they thank Saiko for putting in so much effort for them, and invite him to their houses. They might not be rich, but they know how to have a good time too. Wait, did they just become friends? The next day, it's snowing like crazy, and Saiki's school gets cancelled again. So, Nendo and Kaido show up, saying they should build a snowman. Much like Elsa, Saiki refuses to build a snowman until he gets a vision of Nendo being hurt. So, he follows his friends. As the two build a snowman, Saiki makes sure to keep them out of harm's way, and that's when the vision changes. It's Kaido who's in danger now. So after some more babysitting, Saiki is convinced his friends will be okay now. That's when he realizes that the visions he had weren't of his friends actually being hurt, it was just them playing dead. I guess the point of Saiki's vision was to spend some quality time with his buddies. Some more time passes, and now graduation has come around. Saiki doesn't care since he's a second-year student, and the only guy he kinda knows in third year is Kongu, who was a nightmare. But his friends are all super emotional. They have friends in third year. Chiyo, for example, dated a guy that's gonna graduate, while Kaido got his whole dark reunion conspiracy theory from a graduating student. After Kaido gives a speech about how much he appreciates that guy, the third-year student's representative is gonna give a speech now, and that representative is Kongu. Turns out he got his together, studied hard, and is now on his way to Tokyo University. His speech sends everyone but Saiki into tears, and then they sing the school anthem as the episode ends. Maybe our boy Saiki will feel something at his own graduation? The next episode sees another self-obsessed cutie girl joining PK Academy. Her name is Rifuta Imu, and just like Teruhashi, she's obsessed with being the prettiest. As she walks through school, she lays her charms out on everyone, and is sure she'll be running things soon, until someone mentions Teruhashi. That's when everyone says that while Imu is cute, Teruhashi is on a different level. Imu doesn't believe it until she sees Teruhashi, and is blown away by her beauty. Teruhashi takes Imu to the cafeteria, and after spending some time with her, Imu realizes she's no match for Teruhashi and she runs off crying, which is exactly what Teruhashi wanted to happen. Still, it's not all bad for Imu. Saiki thinks she's cuter than Teruhashi. Well. The next day, it's April Fool's, and Kaido is using it to get a fast one over on everyone. He gets Nendo the hardest, saying they're gonna shoot a beam out of the sky tree, and the poor bastard actually believes him. Eventually, Kaido gets in trouble for his pranks and is scolded by Matsuzaki. That's when Saiki uses his powers to stop the wind blowing his book away, and Kaido sees it. He only saw the book levitating though, so Saiki's secret is safe. Kaido tries convincing everyone of what happened, but they don't believe him. Later, Nendo brings a camera to take a picture of the sky tree beam Kaido told him about, and he accidentally drops it. The camera is heading straight for Kaido's face, so Saiki moves it out of the way before dropping it safely on the ground. This time, Nendo and Kaido both try convincing their classmates about what happened, so they tell Kaido to drop the camera again. If it happens, they'll believe it. But with Saiki not helping out, the camera falls and gets blown to smithereens. So, Nendo and Kaido are left alone as their classmates walk off, and Nendo is pretty sad about his broken camera. Kaido is about to tell him the beam thing was a lie when Saiki shoots a beam from the sky tree. He didn't want Nendo to think Kaido lied to him. Now isn't that sweet? After that, pollen season comes around, and something crazy happens. Saiki has allergies. It's the first time this has ever happened though, and it's bad news. Every time Saiki sneezes, he destroys something with his psychokinesis. Luckily for him, he has medicine to rely on. All he needs to do is keep taking it throughout the day. Unfortunately, because of some Nendo shenanigans, Saiki ends up sneezing on his medicine, destroying it. So, Saiki has to teleport home and he runs out of class. But Nendo follows him because Nendo wants Saiki to watch him sneeze? The hell kind of reason is that? Nendo even pulls a pollen plant from his pocket. He really wants to sneeze in front of Saiki, so Saiki has no choice but to knock Nendo out. He's about to teleport home when he sneezes and breaks a wall. So he uses Nendo's pollen as a smokescreen, fixes the wall, and goes back home. Well, that was unnecessarily intense. Some time passes, and Saiki is with Kaido, Nendo, and Hiro as they're competing in the annual trash collection competition. Simply put, whoever collects the most valuable trash wins 1,000,000 yen. And I say valuable trash because apparently there's a scoring system for the kinds of trash you collect. Add that to the list of things that can only happen in Japan. Saiki and the others run into last year's winner, Gomi Hiroshi, who acts like he doesn't care about the town, but is really just in it for the money. After the competition starts, a guy approaches Saiki's group and offers them to team up to collect the most valuable kind of trash: cigarette butts. Hiro's goody two-shoes ass refuses immediately, and they start collecting trash the right way. After a long day of work, Saiki and his team are in second place when they run into cigarette butt guy from earlier. Turns out, he teamed up with Gomi, and now they have like 2 kilograms worth of cigarettes. They're about to win. Saiki doesn't appreciate that, so he lights their bag on fire, taking them out of the competition. Unfortunately, Saiki and his team end up losing. How? Because, and get ready for this one, apparently a kid found the corpse of a Tsuchinoko, a snake-like creature from Japanese folklore stories. And by Saiki standards, I guess that's a pretty normal thing to have happen. The following day in school, Toritsuka comes to Saiki for some help. Apparently, the piano in the school music room is haunted, and he needs Saiki's help to investigate. So, the two of them go to investigate after school and find the spirit of a cute girl playing the piano. While ghosts usually can't touch anything, they can touch something if they're really attached to it. And this girl is really attached to the piano. Toritsuka has to ask the girl to leave since her piano playing is scaring the students. She agrees almost immediately, disappearing into the night. But when they get to school the next day, Toritsuka and Saiki see the piano getting taken away. People are thinking it's haunted. So, Saiki teleports the piano to Toritsuka's home so the girl can play the piano whenever she wants. Wholesome stuff. Episode 5 starts with Imu being mad at Teruhashi for being, well, Teruhashi. Every guy in the school fawns over Teruhashi, including the guy that was asking Imu out, and it's getting on her nerves. But when she sees Teruhashi talking to Saiki, she has a plan. After confirming that Teruhashi has feelings for Saiki, she plans to win Saiki's love so she can finally beat Teruhashi. Saiki knows her plan, and approves of it? The way Saiki sees it, if he gets along with Imu, Teruhashi will see and stop pursuing him. Then, Imu will have beaten Teruhashi, and she'll leave Saiki alone too. Great plan, buddy. So, Imu heads over to Saiki, and at first is super confused when she sees him. Why does Teruhashi like this loser? But when Saiki says Imu is cuter than Teruhashi, she suddenly sees him in a different light. Now, too embarrassed to ask him out, Imu runs off. And just like that, Saiki has 2 girls obsessing over him. Again. The next day, Saiki's parents are deep in thought. Both of their birthdays are coming up and they're thinking about what to get each other. Last year, they both got life-size mannequins of Kuniharu for each other, which is a rabbit hole I do not want to go down. They both head out to get presents for each other, and Saiki checks on them to see what they're up to. Kuniharu wants to get Kurumi a huge DIY bear plushie, but she doesn't have the money for it. Meanwhile, Kurumi wants to get him a huge display for his figurines, but there's no space in the house for it. So, Saiki just figures they'll both get something else and move on, but that's not what happens. Like, at all. Turns out, they both got each other the exact things Saiki thought they shouldn't, but there's a problem. You see, Kuniharu sold all of his figurines to be able to afford the DIY plushie, and Kurumi sent her DIY tools to her parents to make space for the display case. So, both of their gifts are useless. And yet, they're both crying tears of joy. That's when Saiki finally understands gift giving. It's not the gift itself, but the thought behind the gift that makes it special. So, they just put the 2 Kuniharu mannequins in the display case and call it a day. Still super weird though. The next day, Saiki is walking along and minding his own business when he runs into a little hamster. The little hamster is in a bit of a pickle. It used to have the perfect life as a pet, but escaped to see the outside world. But after seeing that the world is an absolute mess, the hamster just wants to go back home. One problem, it doesn't know where it lives. Saiki says he can't help the hamster if it doesn't know where it lives, but that's when the annoying orange cat shows up. It knows where the hamster lives, so Saiki takes the hamster home and it sees its owners, only to find out they've replaced him with another hamster. So Saiki has to find the hamster another owner. So he tries testing out his friends. Unfortunately, they're all clinically insane and shouldn't be left within 10 feet of an animal. Hiro gets the hamster for a day and starts training it like a madman. Kaido scares the hamster half to death with the conspiracy theories, and Chiyo annoys it the other half to death with her gossiping. Teruhashi has a cat, so he can't take it either. That just leaves one candidate, Nendo. And Nendo is the perfect pet owner. Turns out he had a hamster as a kid and knows exactly how to take care of one. And just like that, Saiki has helped the hamster find its new home. I swear, Saiki's more of a superhero than most superheroes. Saiki comes home to find that Kusuke has sent them a massage chair, which turns out to be a prank because it electrocutes Kuniharu. That's when Saiki's parents realize something. Saiki's shoulders are as stiff as a statue. They suggest Saiki get a massage, but human hands won't work, so they try everything. A wooden sword, a metal pipe, and even stabbing him with an ice pick. But nothing works. Saiki's shoulders are still stiff. His dad uses an impact rammer, which helps a bit, but it's not enough. So, Saiki teleports away and uses a waterfall to massage himself. And when that doesn't do the trick, he blows up a rock and uses the pieces to hit his back. It's working until he notices an old lady staring at him. Panicking, Saiki teleports back home and accidentally sits on Kusuke's chair. He gets electrocuted, which ends up getting rid of all of the tension in his back and shoulders. Looks like Kusuke has lost to Saiki again. The next episode starts with Kuboyasu, Kaido, and Nendo inviting Saiki for a weekend of fun. But Saiko overhears them and laughs at how broke their plans are. Hey man, not cool. Saiko then proposes an idea. He says they'll take them all on a cruise to his private island, on one condition. They bring Teruhashi. Teruhashi agrees. Chiyo and Mera sign up too, and just like that, Saiki's whole gang is going on a cruise. When they get to the cruise, Saiki reads Saiko's mind and realizes the ship isn't fully prepared, and as the next scene sees them washed up on an unknown island, Saiki knows he should have stopped this cruise back then. What the hell happened here? We then see what happened. As Saiki got on the ship, Saiki saw a bunch of bad omens, including a black cat, but still decided to get on the ship. While on the ship, Kaido got seasick, so he fell asleep early. The flashback ends as Kaido wakes up on the island and starts panicking. The others all wake up too, and Saiko tells them not to worry. After all, his ship had a GPS in it, and there are probably search parties out looking for them right now. What's more, the ship's pantry floated to shore with them, so they have food and water to survive. That's when we go back to the flashback and see that Saiki got seasick too, even though Saiki denies it big time. With his seasickness, Saiki fell asleep early too, but how did the ship sink? We then see how the ship sank. When Saiki passed out, Teruhashi removed one of his hairpins. Oh no. You can guess what happened next, right? Saiki's powers caused the ship to sink. The crew escaped on a lifeboat while Saiki woke up underwater. So, he grabbed his friends in the ship pantry and tried to teleport to the nearest island. Unfortunately, he was sick, so he accidentally teleported them to an island off the coast of New Zealand, and nobody is gonna be able to find them there. Saiki himself teleports back home while the others are sleeping, and thinks about how to get them home without revealing his powers. When he gets back to the island, they realize that Mera is missing. Suddenly, a snake pops out of the bushes and pounces on them, only for someone to hit it with a spear. Brownie points if you can guess who did that. It was Mera. Duh. Turns out, being poor has made her a beast. She can hunt and find food on her own. She hands everyone a bag full of mushrooms and plants that they can eat, only for it to be too disgusting for them to even think of eating. Except Nendo. He gobbles that shit up like it's a buffet. Later, Nendo comes up with an idea. They should build a raft to float off the island. Saiki thinks that's a stupid idea until he realizes something. If they sail out into the ocean, he can teleport them back closer to Japan without anyone noticing. So, he teleports some tools to the island and they all get to building a raft. Except for Saiko. He's too busy starving and being paranoid. Everyone else asks him to join them in building the raft, including Teruhashi, but Saiko's pride is too much. He rejects Teruhashi's charms and tells everyone to get lost. So, everyone else starts building the raft. They tame a wild Mera along the way, and by the end of the night, they've made some solid progress. Saiki reinforces everyone's work while they go to sleep, and everyone is cheerful now, except for Saiko. What a jack. The next episode opens with Saiko returning the food Kaido and the others left for him. He's not eating it. They ask him why he's being so damn stubborn, so he tells the truth. He blames himself for the ship sinking, since he used it without proper maintenance being done on it. So, Richie thinks it's all his fault that the ship sank, but the others just say they're all to blame for planning the trip, and end up forcing him to eat ramen. Wholesome. The next day, Saiko joins them for raft building as an instructor. Great. Saiki is ready to just get the raft done so he can teleport everyone back home, when Saiko ruins his plan. Saiko says that only half of them should leave the island. That way, if help arrives on the island, the other half of the group can direct them to the raft half. While the idea would normally be great, it's useless here since no one is coming to save them, and Saiki can't do anything to convince them otherwise. Later, they have to decide who gets to be on the raft and who stays back. After much discussion and petty infighting, they decide the groups. Saiki, Kaido, Chiyo, and Teruhashi are staying on the island, and the rest of them are going out on the raft. They finish the raft by nightfall, and Kaido gives an emotional speech about how he's glad they ended up on this island. With that, everyone goes to sleep, while Saiki focuses on his backup plan. What the hell is he up to? They wake up the next day and are ready to head out in the raft, only to find that they've been saved. Huh? Turns out, Saiki's backup plan was building a duplicate island. While everyone else slept, he took the trees and sand from their island to one much closer to Japan. Then, when the preparation was done, he teleported everyone over there. And since the island looked the same, no one noticed. And just like that, their nightmare is over. Not. Turns out, being lost at sea for 4 days has turned them all into celebrities. Saiko does everything he can to keep the media quiet, but Kaido won't stop yapping about it at school. As a result, everyone now knows that Saiki was stuck on an island and he hates the attention. What's more, the school press club starts writing slander about Saiki when he refuses to give them an interview. So, Saiki has no choice but to accept their offer. He has to give an interview. Oh well, this can't end well, can it? The name of the journalist is Juten Manako, and she's an absolute... She listens to Saiki's story and says it's not good enough, she can't print it. So, she asks Saiki to give her a picture of Teruhashi changing. Damn, is she insane? According to Manako, after spending 4 days on an island, there's no way Saiki didn't take one. Oh, okay, yeah, she is insane. Saiki is disgusted, tells her he did no such thing, and walks out. But Manako has an idea. The next day, she writes a story about how Saiki did take a picture of Teruhashi, specifically of her taking a dump, and that they're gonna reveal it tomorrow. All the Teruhashi fans are about to beat Saiki up until Teruhashi saves him. She says Saiki would never do anything like that. Anyway, Manako dresses up as Teruhashi and plans to fabricate the picture of her taking a dump, but Saiki uses his psychic powers to intervene, and the next day, the only picture on the board is of Manako taking a dump. Yeah, she got what she deserved. Fast forward to the last day of summer break, and the boys show up at Saiki's door to copy his homework, with a bunch of coffee jelly as payment. While Saiki is munching down his sweets, he realizes something. He didn't fill out his picture diary for the month of August, which was part of his summer homework. He could do it in an instant, but not with his friends here, he can't reveal his powers. So, they decide to help him by combining the stories from their own diaries. After they do this for a bit, they realize Saiki had a really boring summer, which is exactly what Saiki wanted, but they don't get that. So, they say they should all head to the beach. Saiki then says that he did have a fun summer, and he'll prove it. So, he leaves the room, teleports to a bunch of cool places, does a bunch of cool stuff, and takes photos of it all. He then returns and shows the photos to his friends, who feel jealous and say they should all definitely go to the beach right now. Saiki just can't escape them. The next episode sees the biannual transfer student pop in. This time, it's a smoking hot girl named Mikoto Ayura, and just like Toritsuka, this girl's got powers. Specifically, her powers let her tell people's fortunes. She tells Chiyo that she has a 2% shot with the guy she's into. Ouch. And Saiki can tell she's the real deal. After Miko tells Mera where to find her dad, in Puerto Rico of all places, she reveals why she came to this school. Her soulmate is here. All she knows is that he has pink hair, and his initials are KS. Oh, I wonder who that could be. What's more, Miko says she can actually see people's aura, aka life force, but she can't do that right now, and Saiki knows he has to stay out of her sight. His secret will be ruined if she sees his aura. Oh boy. The next day, Miko's aura powers are back, and Saiki knows this. So he does the unthinkable. He skips school. While at home, he uses his powers to see what's going on. At school, Miko is using her powers to perfectly describe the personalities of all Saiki's friends. She's the real deal. Saiki realizes he can't hide from her. So, he shows up and is about to confess to being a psychic when Miko says she can't see auras anymore. That's when Saiki realizes what's going on. His aura is so big that whenever he's around Miko, it covers everyone else's aura and she can't see it. So all he has to do is make sure she doesn't see his aura from a distance. Oh, and it turns out that Nendo's aura is bright, big, and beautiful. See, I knew he had a heart of gold. The next day, Saiki is walking home from school when he sees a kid getting bullied. He decides to intervene, only to realize that the kid is Yuta. He takes Yuta home, and his mom tells Saiki he's been getting bullied lately. She asks Saiki to help, but Saiki doesn't want to interfere, at least as himself. So, the next day, when he sees Yuta getting bullied, Saiki obviously steps in by transforming into a kid. He punches one of the kids and sends them running away. Beating up kids half his age? Chad. Saiki then asks Yuta why the kids are bullying him, and Yuta reveals it's because he kicked them. It's his own fault. So, when the kids show up again, Saiki doesn't fight them. He apologizes. He asks Yuta to do the same, and puts an image of Cider-Man in his brain. Cider-Man tells Yuta to accept when he does something wrong. That's what true strength is. So, Yuta apologizes and learns a valuable life lesson. Saiki is one hell of a mentor. The next day, Saiki is walking with Kaido and Nendo when he gets stuck in a 13-second time loop. This kind of thing has been happening ever since he traveled through time, and it's because Saiki's brain is doing it subconsciously. The only way to get out of it is for Saiki to clear his brain. So, he does it and escapes the loop, only to get stuck in another one. So, he clears his mind again, and the loop is finished. That's when a truck is about to hit a kid, and Nendo jumps in front of him. So, Saiki uses his power to save them, only to realize he's now stuck in a loop of saving the kid and Nendo. It's a 6-second loop, and he doesn't have enough time to both save them and clear his mind. So, Saiki begins saving them again and again and again. He ends up saving them a total of 16,785 times. Luckily, he saves them so many times that he ends up doing it without using his brain, and that finally frees him from the loop. We then get a classic Teruhashi and Saiki situation. Teruhashi spots Saiki in public, but Saiki ignores her, and this pisses Teruhashi off. After that, Saiki is the only person who's immune to her charms, but today, she's had enough of his bullshit. So, she uses her charms to get every single guy in the area to start looking for Saiki, which is pretty pathetic for the guys if you think about it. Unfortunately, Saiki just uses his invisibility to slip past her. Though everyone sees Teruhashi as an innocent girl, Saiki knows she's a narcissistic psychopath and brings way too much attention to herself, and he wants nothing to do with it. And here I was hoping they'd end up together. The next episode starts with Miko still on the search for her soulmate. She's checking all the guys that have the initial SK or KS, and her next target is Saiki. While Saiki spies on her, Chiyo runs into Miko. Miko says it's a bummer she can't see auras. She'd know her soulmate instantly if she could. That's when Chiyo theorizes that her soulmate's aura might be so big that it's dwarfing the others. How did a complete baka hit the bullseye like that? So, Chiyo and Miko decide to watch Saiki leave school and test the theory. Saiki, being Saiki, manages to trick them, and they're off of his trail. That's when Chiyo slips and falls off the roof. Saiki has no choice but to use his powers to save her. He couldn't hide it either. Chiyo and Miko know his secret. Well, this is unfortunate. Chiyo passes out, so Saiki teleports back on the roof and tells Miko he's a psychic. After Saiki convinces Miko he's telling the truth, Miko tells him some bad news. Chiyo has a death mark on her face. That means that Chiyo is going to keep ending up in life-ending accidents until the mark on her face disappears. Lucky for her, Saiki is there. He saves Chiyo from being poisoned by a fish she ate, thanks Mera, before stopping a truck from running her over. With that, Chiyo's death mark is gone, and Miko's head over heels in love with Saiki. Make that 3 absolute babes obsessed with Saiki. God damn. Sometime later, Saiki, Kaido, and Nendo go to attend a circus. Why? Because Oryoku is performing there, and he wants Nendo's mom to see him perform. One problem with that, Oryoku gets injured before the show, so Saiki has to bail his bum out again. Even though he hates it, Saiki gets on stage and uses his powers to put on a show. One standing ovation later, he's ready to go home, only for him to have a vision of the future in which there's a horrible accident at the circus. Looks like he can't leave just yet. Since Saiki doesn't know exactly how the accident is going to happen, he hijacks all the performances. That way, if Saiki does the stunts himself, nothing bad will happen. After hijacking 2 performances, he tames the beastly lion and everything's safe. That's when Oryoku shows up. Turns out his injury wasn't that bad, and since Nendo's mom figured out it wasn't Oryoku on stage, Saiki did all of that for nothing. That's when the roof collapses, and Saiki manages to save everyone, though a kid does scrape his knee. But Oryoku cheers the kid up, and Nendo's mom looks at him with eyes full of love. Maybe it wasn't such a waste of time after all. The following day is a dark one for the school, because Teruhashi is sick. Everyone, including the teacher, is depressed and they're wondering what happened to her. Saiki knows it's a cold, psychic privilege, and that's what everyone else assumes too, until Kaido says it might be something worse. With that, the rumors start spreading like wildfire, and now everyone thinks Teruhashi is gonna die. God damn it, Kaido! So, Saiki takes matters into his own hands. First, he removes his hairpin and convinces everyone that Teruhashi just has a cold. Then, he teleports to her room and knocks out Toru so she can rest without being annoyed. With that, Teruhashi returns to school the next day and everything goes back to normal. Well, it's about as normal as things can be at PK Academy. Episode 10 starts with Saiki's granddad waiting impatiently for Saiki and Kurumi to show up when he gets a call. Though the person on the phone doesn't sound like Saiki, he says he is Saiki and he needs 4 million yen from his grandpa. The old idiot falls for this blatant scam and heads out with the money. Saiki and his parents show up to learn what happened from Kumi, and Saiki teleports to save Kumagoro from this scam. When the scammer calls again, Saiki traces the call and teleports to the location, only to find that the call was pre-recorded. So, someone with a smart plan who Saiki can't sense with his telepathy. I sense some Kusuke shenanigans. Sure enough, Kusuke shows up, saying that this was all to teach Kumagoro how to avoid scams. Kumagoro should be mad, but this tsundere can't help but be happy that both of his grandsons are here now. He loves them. At dinner, it's a whole family reunion. Kusuke gives Kumi a gift and is about to give Kumagoro a gift too, until Kumi says they should go to the festival. In discussion for the festival, poor Kumagoro gets so excited that his blood pressure goes up and he passes out. So, the poor Sob has to rest while the rest of the family goes to the festival. He didn't even get his gift! At the festival, Kusuke is up to his old scheming. He's trying to beat Saiki at literally anything. Anything. He chooses a shooting game and proceeds to pull out an atomic death laser. A little overboard, I'd say. Saiki manages to deflect the death ray and he wins again. But Kusuke says they'll have plenty of matches like this in the future. And that's because Kusuke has just graduated from college. He'll be living with his grandparents now. Ugh, why? Anyway, a few days later, Kuniharu tells Saiki to teleport to his grandparents to give Kusuke some stuff. But when he gets there, he sees something crazy. The entire town is full of robots. What in the Skynet is going on here? Saiki knows that this is Kusuke's doing, so he goes to his brother for answers. Kusuke says he's just helping out the elderly by introducing them to the state-of-the-art technology. And it's not just outside people. Kusuke has Kumagoro in a super suit, which makes him a freak athlete. Meanwhile, Kumi is de-aging in a pod like Goku and Vegeta, and she comes out looking much younger. Seeing this, Saiki thinks his brother might actually be doing the right thing. So, he hands over Kusuke his stuff, but Kumagoro accidentally knocks it over, and that's when they see what was inside the bag. A step-by-step detailed plan on how Kusuke was going to turn the inhabitants of this town into super weapons and use them to destroy Saiki, with the jig being all the way up. Kusuke just apologizes, then makes a run for it. What a Some days later, Saiki gets ambushed by Miko at his favorite cafe. She used fortune telling to figure out where he'd be. Creepy. She tries getting all lovey-dovey with him, but Saiki just wants his coffee jelly. That's when Toritsuka sees them and is shocked that Saiki is on a date. They're both being super annoying now, so Saiki tells them that they're both psychics. After proving it to each other, Toritsuka and Miko start fighting over who's Saiki's sidekick. Bars. And Saiki tries to leave, only to be scared by a cockroach. Toritsuka and Miko decide whoever kills the cockroach gets to be Saiki's super sidekick, and they get to it. But they both fail miserably, and the manager of the cafe ends up killing it himself. I guess the manager is Saiki's super psychic sidekick now. The next episode starts with something unbelievable happening. Nendo gets a love letter from a girl. Kaido and Saiki are dumbfounded. They can't believe it's true. Nendo is unaffected, saying it's no big deal. But Kaido basically tells Nendo that if he doesn't want to die single, this is his only chance. Harsh? That's when Hairo and Kuboyasu show up, and it's their turn to get bamboozled by the news. That's when Hairo takes a look at the letter. He realizes it's not a love letter, it's a recruitment letter manager for the baseball team from Maki Shiko, the baseball team manager. Oh, poor Nendo! The next period is physical education, and Saiki's class is doing judo. Saiki ends up with no partner, so he just practices judo with Mr. Matsuzaki, and actually manages to toss him on the ground. Matsuzaki now thinks Saiki has hidden judo talent, so he puts Saiki up against Hiro, a judo black belt. Saiki tries weaseling his way out of the match, but Hiro tells him to actually try, so Saiki does try, by controlling Hiro and making himself lose. Saiki may have lost, but he got some unwanted attention for himself. Luckily, Nendo goes next and beats Hiro without any practice, so the spotlight goes straight to him. Some time passes, and Teruhashi shows up to Saiki's house on New Year's. She wants to go to the temple with him. Unfortunately, that's when she's introduced to Kusuke, in all of his Polish glory. Saiki wants to get Teruhashi as far away from Kusuke as possible, but he joins them on their trip to the temple. On the way there, he asks if the two are dating, and Teruhashi says no. Kusuke says he understands. After all, they are worlds apart. Teruhashi thinks he's talking about her being out of Saiki's league, but it's the opposite. According to Kusuke, Saiki is a special talent and a genius, and Teruhashi, with her looks, is worthless in comparison. Teruhashi feels crushed, and she's not going to let that slide. So, she uses her tears to make every guy in the vicinity start chasing after Kusuke with the intent to kill. He gets away, and Saiki and Teruhashi are alone now. And this is the first time Saiki has ever been happy about Teruhashi's fan following. The next day, Saiki is looking at the school result, and he sees he's right in the middle, exactly where he wants to be. But Saiki is in awe of the guy who's one spot ahead of him, a kid named Sato Hiroshi. You see, all Saiki wants is a normal, ordinary life, but because of his powers, no matter how hard he tries, he can't have one. But Sato, he's the most average NPC human being that has ever lived. Average build, average weight, average IQ, average grades. He's everything Saiki wants to be. Saiki follows the average Sato around and even saves him from a thug. I think the fact that Saiki doesn't want his powers is the exact reason why he deserves them. After school, Saiki heads to the library to read some books. He finds a series of mystery novels that only 2 people have read before him, so he picks the first one up. But his invisible glove got torn, and he accidentally uses psychometry to see the 2 people who read the book before him, a boy and a girl who fell in love. Saiki thinks nothing of it and just reads the book. He finishes it and grabs the second book and sees further into the girl and boy's story. Pretty soon, he stops caring about the books and fully becomes invested in the love story. The girl ends up having a fiancé, so the guy has an anime-style fight with the fiancé, and the story ends on a cliffhanger. That's when the librarian tells Saiki to leave, and Saiki is about to walk out when he realizes that the librarian is the guy from the love story he was seeing. What's more, he has a wedding ring on. Looks like he won! Man, that was beautiful. The next episode opens with Imu having a nightmare about Saiki dating Teruhashi. Imu decides she can't have that. She'll confess to Saiki today. Saiki reads her mind and knows what she's up to, so he devises a plan, using Miko as a fake girlfriend to get rid of her. The way he sees it, the only reason that Imu is into him is because of her rivalry with Teruhashi. So, if Saiki is dating someone else, Imu will drop her interest. Miko agrees to help and acts all lovey-dovey with Saiki in front of Imu, but something weird happens. Imu isn't jealous. That's when Teruhashi shows up, and Imu hides Saiki and Miko in a locker. Huh? Turns out, Imu doesn't hate Teruhashi. She actually loves her. What? After a while, my dudes, hatred turns into obsession, then love. Anyway, the reason she hid Saiki in the locker was so that Teruhashi wouldn't be sad seeing him with Miko, and Imu is gonna make sure Teruhashi is happy. I think Saiki may have made things worse again. The next day, Imu invites Teruhashi to a mixer, sort of a blind date where guys meet girls. This is because Imu thinks Saiki is a piece of and Teruhashi deserves to be with someone better. Reading her mind, Saiki thinks this is a great idea. Teruhashi might end up liking someone else. So, he spies on Imu, Chiyo, and Teruhashi from the next room as they meet 3 rich models from a posh school. All 3 of them are super into Teruhashi, and Teruhashi's having a good time. But she thinks it'd be more fun if Saiki was here, and that's when something strange happens. The posh boys go to the bathroom, so Saiki knocks them out and takes them home, saying he can't let any of them have Teruhashi. Was Saiki jealous? The next day, Nendo brings his hamster, who he calls Nendo Jr. to school. Nendo Jr. reveals that he is always with Nendo. He was even stranded on the island with them, though he was hiding because he thought Mera might eat him, which is understandable. After Nendo Jr. takes in Kaido and Kuboyasu's hands, it's time to play basketball. Saiki's team has to clean up because they lost, and they end up getting locked in the equipment room. Saiki unlocks the room with his telepathy, but Nendo doesn't know that. Instead, he says that Nendo Jr. is going to save them by going and getting the keys. Unfortunately, Nendo Jr. gets spotted by Matsuzaki, and they all get scolded by him. Oh, and Nendo Jr. is a female hamster, just thought I would mention that. The next day sees Saiki keeping tabs on Sato, the average guy from earlier. Saiki respects the guy more than anyone else. After all, he's everything Saiki wants to be, perfectly average. He even spends an average amount of time in the bathroom. This guy is a straight NPC. Toritsuka shows up behind Saiki as he spies on Sato and tries to instigate a fight between Sato and Nendo, but Sato expertly navigates the conflict and gets out unharmed. That's when Saiki decides he's gonna be friends with Sato. To do that, Saiki stands in front of school reading Sato's favorite manga, listening to his favorite band, and drinking his favorite juice. Sato is about to talk to him before deciding Saiki is weird and just goes home. Ouch! The next day, Kuboyasu, Kaido, and Nendo all need haircuts. So, they go to the salon and drag Saiki along with them. There, Kaido and Kuboyasu get their usual cuts, but Nendo gets a completely different haircut, and it looks really good. The next day at school, Nendo shows up with a scarf hiding his butt chin and his new haircut. As a result, the girls at school are really into Nendo now. Kaido and Kuboyasu are super jealous, so they try to embarrass him. It doesn't work, and they end up getting scolded by the girls. Unfortunately for Nendo, he doesn't need Kaido and Kuboyasu to slander him. His disgusting behavior is enough to throw the girls off again. Poor guy. The next episode starts with Saiki getting ambushed by Miko again, when the two of them run into Mera. Turns out she needs them to come to a restaurant or she'll be fired. Why? Because she took a bite out of a customer's food. Damn it, Mera. So Saiki and Miko head over there. Miko buys Mera some food, and Mera tells them she's working 12 part-time jobs. When Miko asks why, Mera says it's because she's saving up to go to Puerto Rico and meet her dad. Mera goes back to work, and Saiki is still mad at Miko. After all, the reason Mera's working so hard is because Miko told her where her dad is. Besides, she doesn't know if Mera will be happy to meet her dad. With that, Saiki leaves and Miko doubles down. She's gonna tell Mera exactly where her dad is. So, Miko looks at her orb and screams. Mera's dad is headed right where they are, and that's when Saiki runs into a man, and it's Mera's dad. His name is Kiyoshi, and he wants to learn how Mera is from Saiki. You see, Kiyoshi used to be rich and dandy until he lost all of his money. He was in debt to some nasty people who had him working overseas in Puerto Rico, but he's at his limit now. The best he can do for his family is die so they can collect the insurance money. Saiki hears his story and just bails. He wants nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, Mera and Miko track down Kiyoshi and start chasing him. While that's happening, the debt collectors decide to kidnap Mera along with her friends, starting with Saiki. This turns out to be a big mistake. Meanwhile, Mera and Miko catch up to Kiyoshi, and Mera demands answers. Kiyoshi says he had to run, but Mera calls bullshit. She wants her dad to stay so they can face their challenges as a family. That's when the debt collectors show up and say Kiyoshi's debt has been forgiven before running off. Saiki definitely gave them a good scare, and just like that, Mera's family's been reunited. Yeah, he's gotta be a superhero! Some days later, Saiki is reading a manga called Silent Cyborg by author Fudekichi Shiragami. Usually, Saiki is a big fan of the manga, but for the past 3 weeks, it's been, well, kinda dog. That's when Kuniharu sees him reading the manga and reveals he's Shiragami's new editor, and he's been on the job for 3 weeks. Oh, okay, yeah, I see what the problem is. Just then, Kuniharu goes to meet Shiragami, and Saiki follows him through astral projection. He finds out what the issue is. Kuniharu is giving Shiragami terrible advice, and Shiragami is too much of a pushover to say no. So, Saiki knocks his dad out, he then transforms into Kuniharu and tells Shiragami to ignore all of his advice. And just like that, Silent Cyborg is good again. Man, I wish I could have done that to the Zack Snyder DC films. With spring approaching, Saiki and his friends decide to go watch the cherry blossom trees. Unfortunately, all the good spots have been taken by unemployed lifeless losers who've been there for 2 days straight. No matter what they do, our gang here cannot get a spot. And when they think that they found one, a guy starts taking a dump there to assert his territory. Good God, that's disgusting. And probably illegal too. So, the friends have to watch the cherry blossoms from a distance and are ready to give up on their picnic until Teruhashi shows up. She uses her charms to help them get a primo spot to watch the cherry blossoms. One problem with that, everyone is crowding Teruhashi, so they can't see the cherry blossoms. Well, you win some, you lose some. Following that, Saiki heads out to do some training. He throws rocks around, checks his reflexes, all that superhero stuff. And why does he do that? Because Saiki has a mission. You see, there's been a series of earthquakes happening, and they're all caused by a volcano that's going to erupt in Japan. If it erupts, it'll destroy the entire country. So Saiki is training to control and stop the volcano. Saiki goes to the volcano and tries to stop the explosion, but fails to do it. So he sets the time for the whole world back 1 year again. That's why Saiki's been in his second year of high school for 4 years now. He hasn't found a way to stop the volcano yet. And with his mind-bending powers, no one questions the fact that he's been in the same class for 4 years now. This part is called Preface to the Final Episode. That volcano might just turn out to be important. The next episode starts with Saiko getting a trial from his dad. He has to spend 24 hours without getting any help from family resources. Saiko tells this to Kaido, Nendo, and Saiki after school and says he's gonna need help getting home. After all, he doesn't know the way back. How spoiled is he? Nendo agrees to take him back, so Saiki and Kaido decide to join him too. Along the way, Saiko says he's hungry, but he can't afford caviar, so Nendo says they should just go eat ramen. After having a crash out about waiting in line, Saiko decides to suck it up and wait for 30 minutes before eating ramen. The next day, when his trial is over, Saiko tells all his servants how hard the 24 hours were, so his chef says he'll make Saiko anything he wants. And Saiko asks for ramen. He thinks he's slick, huh? The next day, Saiki goes to school, and Toritsuka shows up asking for his help to catch a cat. Ugh, not this guy again. Miko shows up too, and the three psychics head out to grab a cat. After some funny antics, Saiki just grabs the cat, and the psychics all go on their way, until Miko's crystal ball shows her something terrible. A train is gonna crash. She calls Toritsuka and Saiki to tell them what's up. Saiki takes Toritsuka and teleports to the top of the train. There, he tells Toritsuka to channel the spirit of a train conductor and save the train. It'd be too suspicious if Saiki did it with his powers. So, Toritsuka saves the train and turns to get some praise from Saiki, only to see security guards asking him why in the hell he's driving a train. Yeah, I don't feel bad for the pervert. The following day, Saiki gets told he needs to write a report for his club, the Occult Club. Saiki says only the president and vice president write reports, but the teacher tells him he is the president. Toritsuka bailed on the club. What a scumbag. So, Saiki writes the report and hands it over when he gets ambushed by Chiyo. Chiyo guilt trips him for not coming to club meetings and blackmails him into showing up. But when he gets there, it's just Arisu and Chiyo. It's more of a girls' club than a ghouls' club. Chiyo and Arisu then start asking Saiki for guy-related advice. But when Saiki's uninterested, Chiyo pulls out a doll and starts pretending she's talking to a spirit. She then tries to make Saiki confess his feelings for Teruhashi, but Saiki uses his telepathy to scare the living out of the girls, making them run off. The next morning, Kuniharu and Kurumi get into a fight over who loves the other more. Man, where can I find that kind of love? After some bickering, they decide to use Saiki's favorability meter to judge who loves the other more. Kuniharu goes first, and his love score for Kurumi is over 38,000. Kurumi goes next, and it looks like he's gonna be beaten, so he farts, which stops Kurumi's score just before she overtakes him. This bickering goes on for a bit until Kurumi comes up with a different challenge. They'll see who loves Saiki more. As soon as the meter on Kuniharu's love for Saiki starts, he bails. Saiki doesn't understand why, but we do. It's because Kuniharu's number for Saiki is exactly the same as his number for Kurumi. He loves them both equally. Isn't that beautiful? The next day at school, it's art class, and everyone has to get into pairs and draw their partners. As usual, Saiki gets no partners and has to pair up with the worst possible pick, Teruhashi. Teruhashi's entire fan base is waiting to see what Saiki draws, while Teruhashi herself is struggling to not draw Saiki too romantically and give her feelings away. Saiki could draw a perfect portrait, but tries to make a normal picture instead, and he keeps messing it up, including drawing Teruhashi as a member of the Ginyu Force from Dragon Ball Z. In the end, Saiki just gives Teruhashi's fans an empty paper, and they say that the empty canvas represents Teruhashi's radiance and elegance. Poor Teruhashi, she just wanted a portrait from Saiki. Episode 15 starts with Saiki, Kaido, and Kuboyasu following Nendo as he goes to play baseball. When they get there, they meet the captain Sugawara, who's a super cliche baseball guy. That's when the principal shows up and tells the team that if they don't win the next match, the team will be disbanded. Also a cliche. Then, they find out that they're going to be playing against one of the toughest teams out there. Another cliche. And then, Sugawara says their star player Abe got suspended a little while ago. That's when Saiki realizes what's happening. They're stuck in a cliche sports manga story. This is reinforced when Sugawara gets injured and Saiki has to step in for him. The next day, Saiki pretends he's injured, and Kuboyasu is too embarrassed of his past to play, so Kaido steps in and immediately injures himself. Idiot! With Kaido out, Kuboyasu decides to step in and the game starts, with the opposing team playing their backups. That's just disrespectful. While the game is going on, Saiki is doing cliche math in his head. He figures that for his manga story to have a happy ending, two things need to happen. First, the star player Abe needs to return and give the team a boost. Then, in the 9th innings, Captain Sugawara will show up and win them the match. Abe is there watching the match, but gets clunked on the head by a stray baseball. So, Saiki has no choice but to take control of Abe's body and start playing, slowly but surely, and with a lot of sports cliches. PK Academy starts making a comeback. Then, it's Nendo's turn to bat. Saiki wants to make sure Nendo follows all the cliches so they can have the perfect ending, but there are two problems with that. 1. Nendo is an idiot, and 2. Nendo is really good at baseball. By the time Sugawara makes it to the stadium, the game is already over. PK Academy won by a landslide, all thanks to Nendo. But the cliches don't end there. After the game, they all go out for dinner, and they meet another baseball team there. Cliche. So, they have an eating competition. Cliche, which ends in a draw. Super cliche. Saiki was there with his parents and saw the whole thing. He just can't escape the weird things that happen in this town sometimes. Some days later, Saiki is devastated when his favorite manga ends. But they have bigger issues to worry about, because Kuniharu's company just went bankrupt. He's out of a job. So, Kuniharu decides to open his own business, licking shoes. He doesn't actually lick the shoes, but it's still pretty pathetic. Luckily for Kuniharu, Kusuke helps him turn the business into a huge success. After it gets popular, Kusuke creates the Shoe Licky, a device that licks your shoes clean. It's a huge hit, and Kuniharu thinks he's rich, until Kusuke says he owns the company and Kuniharu is getting nothing from it. What's more, Kusuke put Kuniharu's old publisher back in business, so the poor man has to lick his boss's shoes and beg for his job back. Jesus, who does that to their own dad? The next day at school, it's Mera's birthday, but instead of waiting for gifts like a normal person, she's out collecting them like the IRS collects taxes. Mera only wants food as her gift, and acts all sad and heartbroken when someone gives her anything other than food. Mera did give everyone a birthday gift on their birthdays, but it was the same thing, a single acorn to be used as a good luck charm. Mera keeps her gift collection up, being rude to anyone who doesn't give her food, but when she's rude to Teruhashi, everyone decides they've had enough and take their gifts back. Mera drops to her knees. All she wanted was to bring some food home to her family so that they could eat without being broke for one day. So, Saiki tricks everyone into thinking the acorn charm actually works, and they all give Mera her food back. The next episode starts with Imu going to Saiki for help. Basically, if Imu doesn't find a boyfriend soon, she's gonna end up falling for Teruhashi big time, and that's gonna be a problem. So, Saiki tries pairing her with Takahashi, but that obviously doesn't work. That's when Chiyo shows up and starts helping him out, but Imu rejects Haido, Saiko, Kuboyasu, and Kaido. She has a thing for Toritsuka for a minute, but that was only because he was channeling a spirit. After school, Imu is explaining her frustrations to Teruhashi when they run into Toru, and Imu instantly falls for him. Bad taste, lady. Bad taste. Speaking of Toru, Teruhashi's birthday is coming up, and he can't focus on his acting job until he gets her a gift. So, Toru disguises himself and goes shopping, where Saiki recognizes him. Toru sees Saiki too, and makes Saiki come along as he buys Teruhashi some gifts. Toru proceeds to buy the most useless, worthless gifts of all time, while Saiki buys her a cute cup with dogs on it. Knowing Toru would be insufferable if Teruhashi hates all his gifts, Saiki decides to swap his cute dog cup with the atrocious cup Toru buys. And wouldn't you know it, that cup is the only gift Teruhashi ends up liking. Later, Toritsuka hears some girls talking about a haunted house, so he gathers the occult club again. They're going to go and investigate. Arisu, Chiyo, Kaido, Toritsuka, and Saiki all head over to the abandoned building. Toritsuka says something is off. Usually, an abandoned building should have about 6 spirits inside, but this one has none. They investigate and find out that one spirit pranked the others, and now they're all mad at him. So, Toritsuka tells the spirit he should apologize and be friends with the other spirit in the nicest exorcism of all time. And just like that, the case is solved. Well, Saiki and Toritsuka know the case is solved, everyone else just thinks that they're talking to themselves and have lost their minds. That's the price of being a psychic sometimes. A few days later, Saiki sees a brand new coffee jelly machine on TV, and he wants it. He can get a discount by trading in his older one, but he still needs 10,000 yen. So, he brings out his alter ego, 100 Yen Man. Basically, when he's 100 Yen Man, Saiki will fulfill any wish his parents have, but it'll cost them 100 yen. He starts helping his mom and dad out and takes money, but his dad wants a lot of help. So Saiki keeps upping the price for the wishes until he's 1,000 Yen Man. Alright, I'm done. Still, when he's done all of his parents' chores, he only has 2,600 yen. So, he goes to his granddad. At first, Kumagoro doesn't want any help and is gonna give Saiki the money anyways, until he realizes the possibilities. So, he makes Saiki do all of his chores and make him look younger. With that, Saiki has enough money and finally buys the new coffee jelly machine, only for the TV to show another new machine that's even better. After school, Kaido shows up and forces Saiki to come with him and Nendo to his secret base. What is he, 12? Anyway, Kaido tries to get them to hang out, but they want to leave. After all, there's nothing to do there. Kaido's hideout is pretty lame. That's when Kuboyasu shows up and says the reason they don't like the hideout is because it's not finished yet. They're gonna build a treehouse too. So Saiki uses his powers to help as his friends throw together a treehouse in one day. Because they're all idiots, the only thing holding the treehouse in place is Saiki's powers. And when a random beetle falls on Saiki's face, he passes out, and the tree goes down with him. Stupid bug. The next episode opens with Saiki getting a package that he thinks is coffee jelly, but it's actually a bomb! It goes off, and Saiki turns back the time on his house by a day. He knows the only guy that is smart enough to pull this is Kusuke. That's when Kusuke pops up on the TV and reveals what he has in store for Saiki. Kusuke's hidden 5 cards all over town in different locations, and if Saiki can't find them before sunset, a firework revealing Saiki's secret will go off, exposing his powers to everyone. So, Saiki begins looking for the cards. He goes to a mall, a park, underground, and a room full of fake cards, and finally collects them all and makes it to Kusuke. But he's a minute late, so the fireworks go off and they say, "Happy birthday!" Kusuke then arranges the cards so that they say happy birthday. It was just a birthday prank. Kusuke then gives Saiki a year's worth of coffee jelly supply as a gift, but inside, Kusuke is still plotting a way to finally beat Saiki. This guy is obsessed. Summer break rolls around and Saiki is is happy. He can finally relax. Unfortunately, he has to babysit Yuta today, who's bored and wants to go to the zoo. So Saiki takes him there. After seeing some animals, Yuta wants to see an eland, which is a kind of deer. After some telepathy from Saiki, the deer hits some poses for Yuta and is really happy, until he realizes he's lost his bag. So Saiki does some investigation and finds out that a baboon took Yuta's bag. Saiki asks for the bag nicely, but the baboon refuses. So Saiki gives the baboon a little peek at the indomitable human spirit, and the stupid monkey hands Yuta's bag back and apologizes too. But though everything might be afraid of Saiki, there's one thing even Saiki is still afraid of: pissing off Yuta's mom. Even psychic powers cower before an angry mother. A few days later, Kuniharu asks Saiki to teleport him somewhere. Saiki isn't going to at first, but when he finds out Kuniharu is meeting Shiragami, the author of his current favorite manga, Silent Cyborg, Saiki teleports him and follows him with astral projection. There, while Shiragami finishes up his panels, his assistant named Kumagara Juji shows his own manga to Kuniharu, and, well, it sucks. It's so bad that Kuniharu begins pointing out the faults in it. And that's literally most of this part. The dialogue, the design, the pacing, the panel placement, the power system, everything is bad. But somehow, Kumagara comes away from the conversation motivated. He's gonna fix his manga. Some days later, we see Kaido with a little kid that looks exactly like him. Turns out the kid's name is Toki, and he's Kaido's little brother. What's more, Toki believes all of Kaido's Dark Reunion stories, as well as the stories about Kaido having superpowers. That's when the brothers run into Saiki and Nendo, and Kaido is terrified. Nendo might blow his cover. But when they go to Kaido's house, Nendo plays along with Kaido's stories and even pretends like he's Kaido's henchman. What a great guy! That's when Kaido's sister Sora shows up and yells at them for being too loud. So they go outside and Kaido gets into a squabble with some guy. Nendo says he'll let Kaido fight this one himself, and he's about to get his ass beat until Toki judo flips the guy. Turns out he's been going to a dojo in order to get strong like Kaido. What this little dude doesn't know is that he's already surpassed his brother though. The next day, Teruhashi is just playing her usual nonchalant pretty girl role when she sees Miko walking out of class with Saiki. Jealous, she decides to chase them. Saiki senses her coming and teleports away, so Teruhashi just has a friendly conversation with Miko. Teruhashi realizes that Miko might be more of Saiki's type than she is, so she spends the next few days trying out different styles, and Miko does the same. For some reason. Saiki knows that if this drags on, it'll be a problem, so he asks Miko to do him a favor. Miko then tells Teruhashi's fortune with her love interest and tells her that the guy prefers girls who are true to themselves. So Teruhashi returns to her natural style, and wouldn't you know it, she actually makes Saiki say, "Oh, I think he's starting to like her." The next episode starts, and it's time for our next transfer student to show up. His name is Akechi Toma, and I like to call him Chatty Idiot Face. He talks and talks and talks and talks and talks all day long. By break time, most of his classmates, including Saiki, are done with him. But Kuboyasu and Kaido want to be nice to him, so they sit with him at lunch. After going through his initial blabbering, Toma perfectly predicts Kuboyasu's delinquent past, and Kuboyasu wants to know how he did it. Toma says it's just pattern recognition. It's not like he's a psychic or anything. Kuboyasu says there's no such thing as a psychic, but Toma says he used to know one. And Toma says he's surprised to see him again. With that, he turns to Saiki, reveals that they used to be classmates as kids, and asks him point blank, "Are you a psychic?" What the what? Saiki, of course, plays dumb, but Toma isn't budging. He knows Saiki is a psychic, and is gonna find proof. When he does, Toma says he'll know Saiki was responsible for something when they were in the 2nd grade. Saiki just walks away, so Toma starts interrogating his friends. He asks Chiyo and Mera, who do nothing but waste his time. He then asks Nendo and Haira, who waste his time even more. He then bumps into Teruhashi, and is stunned by her beauty. What's more, the fact that someone like Saiki knows someone like Teruhashi so closely is suspicious to Toma. His detective skills are kicking? Before Toma can get anything out of Teruhashi, Toritsuka shows up. Saiki tells Toritsuka what Toma is up to via telepathy, and Toritsuka says, "Okay, Saiki," out loud. Moron! Toma gets suspicious and starts following him around, asking questions. Luckily, Toritsuka channels the spirit of a master swindler and gets Toma off his back. But Saiki isn't out of danger yet. Later, their class is digging for sweet potatoes, and Toma realizes Saiki is afraid of bugs. So, he keeps trying to get Saiki close to some of them so he can freak out and expose his powers. After a few close calls, Saiki just makes Meta look like him while he hides, and he manages to avoid Toma's accusations. For now. The next day, the annoying orange cat is walking through town when it sees another cat getting all of the attention. What's more, this cat is different somehow. Orange Boy goes to tell Saiki, and the different cat shows up there too. Kuniharu comes outside and instantly becomes a fan of the new cat, completely ignoring Orange Boy. Orange Boy is determined to not be defeated and tries practicing his cuteness. But no matter what he does, he can't beat the new kitty. That's when Kurumi shows up and says she's allergic to cats. They can't have one, let alone two of them. But Saiki says that she doesn't have to worry about that because the new cat isn't real. It's a robo-cat. That's when Kusuke shows up and says he made his parents the cat as a late anniversary gift. Kuniharu and Kurumi love it, and they immediately take it inside, leaving Orange Boy out with some canned tuna. That's gotta hurt. The next day starts with Kuboyasu, Saiki, and Kaido walking to school, and we get the iconic clip of Saiko rolling down his window to speak to them, but rolling it back up when he realizes how cold it is. Hilarious. When Saiko gets to school, he's treated like a king and gets escorted to class, until he sees his desk has been covered with insults. Turns out, Saiko's lackeys were the ones who wrote that stuff, and it pisses Saiko off. Saiko goes to the bathroom and does some self-reflection. All his life, people have just listened to him, but now he's surrounded by people who don't, and it pisses him off. So, Saiko decides that he's gonna transfer out of PK Academy, and Saiki is hearing the whole thing. He's inside a bathroom stall. Meanwhile, we learn why Saiko's lackeys ruined his desk. Turns out, they don't care about the money. They actually think of Saiko as a friend, but it's Saiko who keeps forcing his money on them. He can't accept that they're friends. Meanwhile, on his way out, Saiko sees Nendo and tells him he's leaving the school, and Nendo starts crying? Nendo makes Saiko realize that no matter what his pompous ass thinks, everything they've been through together means that they're friends. Saiko's eyes are finally opened. He's staying at PK Academy. How much you wanna bet he's still gonna be a though? The next episode opens with a nightmare. Saiki's teacher announces they need to select their class representatives for the cultural festival committee, and it has to be one boy and one girl. Since Hiro was class rep last time, he can't do it this time. It has to be someone else. As you can imagine, nobody wants to take on the responsibility. It's a lot of work. After some shenanigans, Kuboyasu volunteering, Saiko buying people off, and lot drawing, the class reps are decided. It's going to be Teruhashi and Saiki. Why does he always get stuck in these situations? With a month left until the festival, Saiki's class has decided to do a play, and it's up to Teruhashi and Saiki to decide which play they're going to perform. Teruhashi wants to use this alone time to get closer to Saiki and make him fall for her, but Saiki was prepared for that. So, he brings Kuboyasu, Kaido, and Nendo to help them pick out the play, and they spend the next hour discussing plays that they shouldn't do rather than plays that they should do. Oh boy, this is going to take a while. With the discussion dragging on, Saiki just astral projects his way out of the room, not wasting his time here. That's when Kaido says they should do a modern interpretation of an old fairy tale and fix all the problems with it. This is a pretty common thing, but since these guys are all idiots, they think it's a super original idea and agree. 28 days later, Saiki and his friends are finished rehearsing and are ready to give it a modern spin. Saiki, as you can expect, is playing the role of Seaweed. Kaido is the director. Nendo is playing some coral. Kuboyasu is the lead. Saiko bribed his way into being the main character's second personality, and Teruhashi is the female lead. The play is set. I hope it's not a disaster. So, the class heads out for one last rehearsal and we see the changes they made. The main character, Urashima, now has a split personality called Undershima. The story is pretty much the same until he opens the box, and when he does, Urashima's personality dies, but Undershima survives. He then goes back underwater, marries Teruhashi, and lives happily ever after. Saiki thinks this ending sucks, but Kaido says it's just a sham. You see, Saiko's money is funding all the costumes and sets and lighting, so they're making him think this is the ending. In reality, it's Undershima who dies when the box is opened, and Urashima is gonna get married to Teruhashi. Unfortunately, Saiko hears this and immediately bails on the play. asshole. So, when the day of the festival comes, Saiki's class has no costumes or props to work with. Kuboyasu just comes out on stage with a board that says Urashima Taro on it. Yeah, it's a disaster. Or so it looks like it. Normally, this play would have ended in a disaster, but luckily, they have two aces. One of them is Teruhashi's beauty and popularity, and the other one is Saiki's powers. He uses his psychic abilities to make everyone think they have a grand set and costumes, and everyone loves the play. It's all going smoothly until Teruhashi has to say I love you to Kuboyasu in front of Saiki. She can't do it, and their play ends up failing anyway. That's too much loyalty, Queen! Episode 20 starts with a disaster. Saiki's glasses break, and both Nendo and Kaido turn into statues. Now, they'll return to normal in 24 hours, but that's not the problem. The problem is, people in their lives will notice them missing, and Saiki needs to fix that. So, he calls Miko and Toritsuka for help. Saiki's plan is simple. He's gonna use hypnosis to make Toritsuka look like Nendo and Miko look like Kaido. They're gonna impersonate his friends until they turn back to normal, and Saiki is gonna help them the entire time. It sounds like a plan, and it's going really well. That's when two problems happen. One, Toritsuka is meeting with Orioku, who is meeting a gorgeous colleague of his. So, the pervert is now sitting face to face with an attractive woman. 2. Miko sees Chiyo and starts talking to her, even though Saiki told her not to talk to anyone. This is gonna get messy. Saiki stops Toritsuka from being a pervert and thinks the worst is over. But when he checks on Miko, he sees that Chiyo is hugging her. He says this is bad. Miko can't do anything noteworthy that Kaido won't remember doing. So, Miko starts saying some weird shit about dark reunion and split personalities before walking away from Chiyo. One problem solved. But that's when another problem shows its ugly face, because Nendo's mom shows up and she thinks Orioku is on a date with this woman. Nendo's mom starts walking away, but Orioku clears up the confusion and asks for a second chance. Saiki tells Toritsuka he has to do everything to stop them from dating again, but as it turns out, he doesn't have to, because Nendo's mom rejects him anyway. With that, Toritsuka and Miko go to Nendo and Kaido's homes and play their parts perfectly. The next day, Saiki plays it cool when Nendo and Kaido go back to normal and everything has been solved. For now. The next day, Kuniharu gets woken up by their robo-cat who they've named Warp. But Kuniharu has one problem with Warp. It seems to love Kurumi more than it loves him. What's more, when the family reads Warp's manual and realizes how many functions it has, Kuniharu can't take it anymore. He says it's a machine, not a cat, and runs off. Warp chases Kuniharu, but Kuniharu thinks it's just another one of Warp's functions, until it starts raining. Warp then cozies up to Kuniharu, who thinks it's trying to hide from the rain. Because of that, Kuniharu now loves Warp and is normal again. And Saiki doesn't have the heart to tell his dad that not only was Warp running after him because of an alarm, but that Warp is completely waterproof too. What he doesn't know won't hurt him, I guess. The next day, it's the day before New Year's Eve, and Kaido has a plan. He says Kuboyasu, Nendo, Hiro, and Saiki should come to his home so that they can celebrate New Year's at midnight. Everyone agrees, and Saiki has to come along even though he doesn't want to. There's just one problem. None of them, except Hiro and Saiki, slept last night, and they're all super tired. Hiro, meanwhile, always sleeps at 8 p.m. exactly, and that's when Kaido says that they should just take turns taking naps. So, they play rock, paper, scissors for it, and Saiki wins. So, he closes his eyes and wakes up in his own bed. Turns out, it was a dream telling him the future, so Saiki does the sensible thing and cancels on Kaido before he even gets there. Can't say I blame him. The next part of the episode is in complete silence, as Saiki is wearing the germanium ring that stops him from hearing other people's thoughts. He wakes up on the first day of the new year and is enjoying breakfast. That's when his dad comes in with New Year's money from him, Saiki's grandparents, and Kusuke. Saiki is happy, imagining all the coffee jelly he could buy with that money. Until Nendo and Kaido show up outside, asking him to go to the temple with him. Saiki refuses, but Kurumi forces him to go anyway. When they get there, they run into Teruhashi and Chiyo, who are all dolled up for New Year's. Saiki tries avoiding them, so he goes to the temple, throws in some money, rings the bell, and asks God for a quiet new year, only for his germanium ring to fall off. And with that, his friend's thoughts start pouring into his brain again. Yeah, if you didn't believe me before, believe me now. God hates Saiki. The next episode starts with Saiki's grandparents coming over to visit, but that's when disaster strikes. Kumagoro and Kumi get separated and don't know where the other is. But that's not the disaster I'm talking about. No, that happens when Kumagoro runs into Teruhashi and Kumi runs into Miko. As Saiki spies on each pair with clairvoyance, each of his grandparents spends the day with his love interests, and they're really impressed with them. In fact, when they get home, Kumagoro says Saiki should marry Teruhashi, while Kumi says he should marry Miko, which turns into a fight, while Saiki is sitting next to them. Awkward doesn't even begin to describe this. The next day, Toritsuka comes to Saiki asking for help. Apparently, he got caught doing perverted shocker, and now he has to fast for 3 days straight in a temple. No food, no screens, and none of his dirty magazines. He begs Saiki to bring him food and help him survive. After all, Saiki owes him for helping out when Kaido and Nendo were statues. So, Toritsuka goes into his hut for fasting. 1 day later, and he's starving. Saiki hasn't shown up. That's when Saiki does show up with a bunch of food. Only, it's not for Toritsuka. Toritsuka has been giving him nothing but trouble ever since he showed up, and Saiki wants payback. So, he eats all the food in front of Toritsuka while showing him hallucinations. When the 3 days are over, Toritsuka comes out a changed man. He's completely reformed. That's when Toritsuka trips and hurts his knee. Saiki decides the least he can do is patch him up and accidentally heals all the pain he suffered during the fast too. Just like that, Toritsuka's back to being a pervert. God damn it, Saiki. Soon after, Valentine's Day is here, and Chiyo is determined to confess to Kaido. She's got some homemade chocolate, a love letter, and she's ready to put it in Kaido's locker, only to chicken out at the last second. Still, she wants to tell Kaido how she feels, so she comes up with a plan. She hides the chocolate and letter in a different location and leaves a letter with clues in his locker. Kaido thinks this is a letter from Dark Reunion, which is so Kaido of him by the way, and immediately goes to investigate. Saiki follows him and realizes that Nendo already found and ate the chocolate Chiyo made for Kaido. Damn it, Nendo! Still, Kaido finds the letter and Saiki goes home. The next day, Kaido comes up to Chiyo and says he likes her too, celebrating their new bond. Unfortunately, when Saiki uses psychometry on the letter, he realizes that Kaido somehow managed to interpret this love letter as an invitation to be best friends with Chiyo. So Chiyo thinks he's in love with her and Kaido thinks they're best friends. This is gonna end badly. After school, Chiyo and Kaido walk home together, unaware of the misunderstanding. Saiki follows along to make sure nothing bad happens. During their walk, Chiyo grabs Kaido's hand. This makes him feel awkward, so he puts his arm around Chiyo's shoulder instead, which flusters her. They sit down in a park and start talking. It's going well, until Chiyo asks about the chocolate, and Kaido says he didn't get any chocolate, and that's when Kaido shows her how he decoded her message. Idiot! Chiyo starts crying and is about to run off, until Kaido says they should stop being best friends. It's too awkward for him, and Chiyo agrees? What's more, she seems happier now. Saiki just sighs. He doesn't understand romance, and I don't either. The next day, the assholes at the PK Academy Press Club, Shuzo and Manako, are up to their no-good antics, posting stories about Matsuzaki meeting some other teacher after school. But that's child's play. Their real target is Teruhashi. They want to destroy her reputation for embarrassing the press club after that whole island poop incident. To do this, they follow her after school, while Saiki follows them. Manako has planned for a car to drive over a puddle and splash into Teruhashi. It'll cover her in mud and they'll have an embarrassing picture of her. The car drives by and splashes the water on Teruhashi. The photographer takes the picture and Teruhashi looks like a supermodel in it. Hell, even the mud on her clothes looks like it's in a design. Saiki isn't even helping her either. This is all just proof of Teruhashi being God's favorite. Still, Manako plans to Photoshop Teruhashi's picture to embarrass her. So, Saiki drives over a puddle next to her and destroys her devices. She's not hurting his friend today. The next day, Saiki gets embarrassed by his friends when they're walking back home from school. As a result, Saiki gets told off by Mr. Matsuzaki. The last thing Saiki wants is unnecessary attention. So, he decides to walk home himself the next day, only to be accompanied by Haido. Now, the thing about Haido is, he's a really nice guy. On their way home, he carries an old lady to the train station, helps a kid find his mom, and gives a tourist the proper directions. Saiki is in awe of Hiro. He thinks someone with such a good heart should have psychic powers, not him. That's when they suddenly see a robbery taking place, and a man with a knife has a woman hostage. Hiro bolts in to save her, and the robber is about to stab him, until Saiki uses his powers to slow the knife down. Hiro then uses judo to take him down, and everything is okay. Well, not really. Turns out Saiki and Hiro made the news for saving that lady, and now Saiki is getting loads of unwanted attention. Saiki then realizes that he'd rather walk home with his friends. That's much less attention grabbing than this. After that, we check up on Imu. Since we last saw her, she's turned into a huge fan of Toru, and she's doing everything she can to meet him. Unfortunately, Imu can't ask Teruhashi since she's in love with both her and her brother. Weirdo. So, she goes to the only person she can ask. Saiki. Why? Just why? Saiki doesn't want to help, but he knows that there's a chance that Toru might like Imu and get off of his back. So, he takes Imu to meet Toru. Unfortunately, Toru thinks Imu is Saiki's girlfriend and is relieved that she stopped chasing after Teruhashi, which he never did in the first place. Imu, meanwhile, just passes out after Toru calls her cute and has no idea that Toru thinks she's Saiki's girlfriend. Man, I sure hope this doesn't become a problem later. Back at Saiki's home, his parents find out Saiki's latest plan to stop the volcanic eruption that's gonna destroy Japan. Clones. These clones work like any other. Anything that happens to the main body happens to them, but what happens to them doesn't affect the main body. But they're not perfect clones by any means. One is an older version of Saiki, one is a younger version, another only has one arm, and one of them is a straight-up alien. Saiki decides to test them out by having them run errands. But when one of them runs into Nendo on his errand, he decides the best course of action is to kill Nendo. Overreaction much? Saiki immediately saves Nendo and swaps places with his clone. They're not ready to face the real world just yet. The next day, Saiki is walking home with Kaido and Nendo after school, but as soon as he's about to go inside, he's ambushed by Toma. Turns out, Toma has been monitoring Saiki for the last 6 months, and he has something he wants to talk about. So, they go into Saiki's room, and Toma says it clearly. Over the last 6 months, he observed Saiki acting abnormally 4 times. The first was when Saiki turned Kaido and Nendo into stone. Just before Toma saw what happened, a sumo wrestler walked in front of him and blocked his view. By the time the sumo had passed, Saiki and his friends were gone. But this wasn't a coincidence. Saiki knew Toma was trailing him and had the sumo wrestler block his view on purpose. The second was when Saiki was walking home with Hiro, and he stopped the robber from stabbing Hiro. Toma could see Saiki pointing his hand at the robber, only there was a sniper behind Saiki. Saiki placed him there to make it look like he shot the robber with a tranquilizer dart and remove any suspicion from himself. These are really convoluted plans from Saiki. He must hate Toma. The third time Toma thought Saiki was suspicious was when he sent his clone out shopping. Toma saw the pot that was gonna fall on Nendo's head change directions, and knew it was Saiki's doing, until he saw a master magician standing next to them. Even Saiki's clone knew how to take cover. But Toma isn't done. You see, he did follow-ups on the sumo wrestler, sniper, and magician, and all of them said the same thing. It was like all of them were teleported somewhere else for a few seconds and then sent back. Almost like a dream. Toma says this is undeniable proof of Saiki being psychic, but Toma doesn't care about that. All he wants to know is what Saiki did when they were kids. We then see a flashback of Saiki standing in a destroyed school building. What the hell did he do? Saiki, sick of Toma, decides to turn him into a statue. After that, he knows there's only one way to fix this mess. So, he turns back time to when he was 6 years old. He's just gonna go see what happened to make Toma so obsessed with him. And I'm dying to know what Saiki did. The next episode starts with Saiki spying on himself in the 1st grade, checking to see where he messed up with Toma. After getting past his family in the morning, Saiki sees what's up with Toma. As a kid, Toma refused to call Takashi, the cool kid in class, cool. As a result, Toma was always getting bullied. This bullying continues after school, where the cool kids beat him up. So, Saiki quietly walks by and heals him. but drops his name tag in the process. The next day, Saiki helps Toma again when the cool kids are bullying him in PE class by making Takashi spin around a monkey bar. That's when Toma says Saiki is a psychic for the first time. Saiki does what he always does, makes a confused face. Classic Saiki. Saiki then goes forward another year and realizes what happened. Takashi and his lackeys continue bullying Toma well into the 2nd grade, while Saiki and Toma got closer as friends. One day after school, Saiki found them really giving Toma the business, and at that moment, Saiki lost control. When he came to his senses, Saiki had destroyed the classroom. Takashi, his lackeys, and Toma were all unconscious, so Saiki wiped their memories of the incident so they wouldn't know it was him. But since Toma already suspected Saiki, he would retain that suspicion. That's when the Saiki of the past catches the Saiki of the future spying on him, and he's forced to teleport away. Back to the future, I guess. In the present, Saiki formulates his plan. He has to go into the past and change things so Toma doesn't know he's a psychic. But he has to be mindful of 2 things. First, Saiki's past self can't recognize him or he'll be sent to the future again. And secondly, he needs to be mindful of the butterfly effect. Even changing small things could have a big impact. Saiki first tries to change the PE class by dealing with Takashi from a distance, but when he goes to the present, the entire world is a dystopian hellscape. So he goes back to the past again, but every time he goes back, it's going to be 2 hours ahead of where he was last time. Kinda confusing, but I hope you get it. Saiki then tries fixing Takashi up in the nurse's office and goes back to the present, but no, still a dystopian wasteland. So now, Saiki's past-changing montage starts. Every time he goes back, Saiki tries changing smaller and smaller things, and every time it ends in failure. As a Hail Mary, he throws a dirty magazine in front of school hoping that would save him. And sure enough, when he comes back to the present, Toma is nowhere to be found. And that's when his friends barge in. Turns out that in this timeline, Saiki is a super social guy. What's more, he's dating Teruhashi too. And Nendo is weird in this timeline. Saiki sees this as an utter failure, so he decides to suck it up and go back to his OG reality. As soon as he gets back, Toma turns back to normal and demands to know the truth. And it looks like Saiki has no option but to tell him everything. Well, at least he tried. So, Saiki confesses to everything, and Toma is shook. Saiki shows his powers by bending a spoon, and Toma is satisfied. His hunch was correct. Toma then tells Saiki why he was so obsessed with proving he was a psychic. It's because he wanted to thank Saiki for saving him from the bullies. He promises to never tell anyone about Saiki's powers and goes home. Saiki is glad it all worked out for the best, but he still has doubts. After all, Toma was his friend, and Saiki never told him the truth until now. And Saiki has other friends who don't know the truth yet. Saiki just decides he'll cross that bridge when he gets there. What he doesn't know is that that bridge is already here because we're about to recap the final episode of Saiki. Woo woo woo! The final episode of Saiki kicks off with Teruhashi being popular. Shocker. But here's the thing, Teruhashi works really hard to maintain her image as the perfect girl, which includes remembering every detail about everyone. So when she compliments a random guy's haircut, it causes a buzz. That weekend, every guy gets a haircut. Teruhashi keeps up, complimenting them all, until she praises a guy who didn't get one. She covers by guessing he changed his shampoo, and he did. Talk about a lucky guess. This spirals into her obsessively noticing every minor change: fabric softener, lotion, glasses, even ATM pin numbers. The effort drained her so much that she collapses, and Saiki catches her, taking her to the nurse. When she wakes up and realizes Saiki helped her, she ditches the perfection act and focuses entirely on him. Now that's adorable. Later, Saiki tells Miko and Toritsuka that Toma knows about his powers, and the two of them are shocked. Apparently, the more people know about Saiki's powers, the less important these two become. So, they go to see if Toma is worthy. First, Miko checks his aura, expecting it to be small, only for it to be pretty big. Toma is an aura farmer? Next, Toritsuka checks Toma's guardian spirit, expecting an old balding guy, but it turns out to be a cool detective. Yeah, that's why I call him Chatty Batman. That's when Toma comes up to them and tricks them into admitting Saiki has psychic powers. Saiki scolds them for being idiots, fair, before he realizes he's lost his keys. So, Toritsuka proposes a competition. Whoever finds Saiki's keys first is worthy of knowing he has powers, and Toma locates them instantly. Of course. Summer break comes and goes, and it's time to head back to school. Saiki heads over, assuming everything would be the same, but things have changed. A lot. Firstly, Kaido is now dressed like a decent student instead of a Yu-Gi-Oh character. Nendo, meanwhile, has gained about 200 pounds pounds and is now an obese mess. That's when Kobayasu shows up, all battered and bruised. He survived a horrible bike accident. Later, in class, Hiro shows up looking like he's competing for Mr. Olympia. Chiyo is also obese, but we've seen that before. Then, Mera shows up covered in rich clothes and expensive jewelry. She invested in Bitcoin. And Teruhashi shows up with pigtails. At least she's not that different. After spending a day being exhausted by his friends, Saiki walks home. When he runs into Orioku and his assistant, turns out they've been practicing hard and have turned into master magicians. Though Saiki refuses to see their show, he's really proud of them. He then runs into Yuta, who's over his Ciderman obsession. He's growing up. That's when Saiki starts running into characters that have showed up in the anime and manga before. The kid with the signed baseball from season 1, the PK Academy baseball team, Shiragami, the manga author, the cafe owner, the motorcycle teacher, and even characters who never made it into the anime. Saiki doesn't know what's happening, but as he runs into Toru outside the cafe, he's not worried. I am though. They're all showing up because the show is about to end, and I'm almost in tears. After his usual bickering with Toru, Saiki sees Nendo and Kaido's moms. He's trying to hide from them, but Nendo's mom finds him. How? Because just like Nendo, Saiki can't sense or read her mind. While talking to her, Saiki sees the hamster he saved is with her for one last cameo too. He then meets the annoying orange cat before going home to see his whole family is there. Then, later at night, it happens. The ghostly figure from season 1 episode 20 returns. In case you forgot, the ghost shows up in season 1 episode 20 and tried telling Saiki that his show was ending. Saiki was able to send it away, saying that there was plenty of time left before the show ended. But now, with the number 240 on his head, the ghost tells Saiki the truth. His time is up. It tells Saiki that this is the last segment of the anime. Everything is coming to an end. But even as it's ending, there's hope. Because when Saiki goes to school the next day, all of his friends have mysteriously gone back to the way they always were. Saiki just smiles. His life is a gag anime, and he's okay with it. Roll credits. And that was our recap of the disastrous life of Saiki K. Even though we rarely got payoffs for the many plot lines that were happening in this show, in a way, it suits its overall chaotic theme way too well. Besides, when a show makes you laugh this much, there's no way you have any complaints. I love to come back to this show whenever I feel down, and you are always free to come back to this video as many times as you want as well. Alrighty then, thank you for joining us today, and please be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you're loving these recaps. We have plenty more on the way. Thanks for watching, and as always, we will see you next time.